into North Korea. In 2019, a Navy SEAL team landed on the North Korean shoreline, according to the Times. They were supposed to plant a device to monitor the communications of North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. But the mission failed after the SEALs were discovered by some North Koreans who were killed. They were apparently civilians. David Phillips was one of the New York Times reporters for this article.
They were expecting the shore to be empty. When they reached this area, instead, they encountered a boat that started flashing lights down at the submarines. And the SEALs, who were on the shore watching this, didn't know what to do. And so they opened fire and killed everybody on the boat.
He spoke to NPR's Morning Edition. The New York Times is also reporting leaders in Congress were not informed about the SEALs' mission. President Trump is expected to change the name of the Department of Defense to the Department of War. NPR's Quill Lawrence reports.
Almost from the country's founding, the U.S. military was overseen by the War Department. Then, after World War II, President Harry S. Truman changed the name to the Department of Defense, housed in the newly finished Pentagon building in Virginia. Last month at an event at the Oval Office, President Trump said the department should go back to the old name, and Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth said it was in the works. It's not clear Trump can officially change the name without congressional action, but the president said he would do so regardless. As the largest department in the U.S. government, even just changing signs, seals, and titles could cost tens of millions of dollars. Quill Lawrence, NPR News.
Missouri Republicans are closer to redrawing the state's congressional maps. They would be following Texas Republicans who did the same after a demand from President Trump. St. Louis Public Radio's Jacyn Rosenbaum reports the Republicans' goal is to send more GOP lawmakers to the U.S. Congress.
A state house committee approved revised congressional lines that would convert Democratic Congressman Emanuel Cleaver's Kansas City-based district into a GOP-leaning seat. Unlike places like Texas, Missouri Republicans hold a supermajority in the state house and Senate and could likely pass the map even if Democrats don't show up to vote. But Democratic State Representative Jeremy Dean says the GOP may face backlash at the polls.
Not only are they wasting taxpayer money by doing this, but they're actually subverting the will of most of our voters and the people of the United States whenever they do this.
The Missouri House is slated to begin debate over the new map early next week. For NPR News, I'm Jacyn Rosenbaum in Jefferson City.
You're listening to NPR News from Washington.
Good morning with the latest from the GBH newsroom in Boston. I'm Craig Lamolt. Massachusetts is moving to preserve access to vaccines as federal policies shift. Governor Maura Healey announced Thursday the state's public health chief essentially wrote a prescription allowing all state residents age 5 and older to get COVID vaccines at pharmacies. That's after new federal limits made the shots harder for some to get. Healey says Walgreens and CVS will have appointments available for booking as soon as this week.
People here will continue to get the care and the protection that they need. It's a pretty sad statement that we can no longer trust the federal government on this, but sadly, that's where we're at.
Massachusetts is also forming a regional public health collaboration with other states. The T is offering free late-night rides on all subway lines, buses, and ferries this weekend. GBH's Jeremy Siegel has the details.
The T is hoping to encourage riders to use their new expanded late-night service that launched last month, with all subway trains and several bus and ferry routes now running an hour later than usual. All trips after 9 p.m. will be fare-free for the next 5 Fridays and Saturdays in a row. The new late-night program marks the first time the T has offered extended evening service in nearly 10 years. Jeremy Siegel, GBH News.
Mostly sunny today, a high in the mid-80s. Clear tonight, going down to the upper 60s, and a slight chance of showers and thunderstorms Saturday afternoon and into the evening. High temps in the upper 80s. And Sunday looks like showers in the morning, mostly cloudy the rest of the day with highs around 70. This is GBH News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Avalara, providing businesses with cloud-based tools and managed services for property tax compliance. From filing returns to tracking assessments. Learn more at avalara.com/property tax.
Welcome to BPR and GBH and NEPM. Jim, Margery, Egan are both here, and we have an extra special guest today, Keith Lockhart, a longtime conductor of the Boston Pops. Thanks
Hi, Margery. Hi, Jim.
We are
Great
thrilled.
to be here.
We're thrilled that you are here. We should tell people we are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library. If you want to see Keith Lockhart in the flesh, here's an opportunity.
Not quite in the flesh, but you can see Keith Lockhart.
Well, he's in the flesh. He's got his clothes on.
I'm in a shirt.
You're in a shirt. You're in a shirt and pants.
You know what everybody is thinking? Everybody's saying,
thinking?
How did he get here for this potentially career-ending moment? Well, here is an excerpt from Keith when he was on our show. He's the conductor of the Pops for a mere 30 years, just celebrated his 30th anniversary. Here he was last month, and listen to what he had to say.
You say I'm one of your favorite guests.
You are.
You've never asked me to guest host.
Oh my God!
Would you really
Would you do it?
I would.
Would you?
There you go. Oh, we love that. Are you kidding? That would be awesome.
That would actually be huge. You think you could do it?
Yes, I do think.
Okay, I just want to be clear here. So after the show, Margery says, "Is he really going to do it? Is he really going?" So how nervous are you?
More than I am for the average concert. So, but I suppose you've just proven it was my fault.
So. It was your fault, actually. And I want to echo what Margery said. We are thrilled, and I know the audience is thrilled to have you. Really great to be. We're great admirers of your work.
Long-time listener, first-time host.
First
there you go.
Exactly.
There you go. Very good.
We want to say we're starting today's show with a rare promise to everybody listening. First hour is going to be our usual, sort of the world burn kind of program, headache-inducing political talk. However, the second 2 hours, we never do this, so you better treasure it while you can. We're actually going to have fun and hopefully create some joy in our listening audience and the wonderful people who are here at the library. However, we might have done a full 3 hours of politics life, but unfortunately for every American, HHS Secretary and brainworm survivor RFK Jr. had other plans. You may have caught a few moments from yesterday's incredible Senate hearing where Kennedy was asked to defend his dismantling of the CDC. We fired the boss, as you know, last week. His undermining of vaccine research and his belief in false science about vaccines and autism. Here's just one of many astonishing moments when Republican Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy, and by the way, Cassidy is a doctor as well as a senator, he was the critical vote to confirm RFK Jr. after he made promises about vaccines. And here he is, a Republican, again, calling out RFK Jr. for his blatant hypocrisy.
Because you've canceled, or HHS did, but apparently under your direction, $500 million in contracts using the mRNA vaccine platform that was critical to Operation Warp Speed. Again, an accomplishment that I think President Trump should get a Nobel Prize for. You canceled $500 million in contracts. So this just seems inconsistent that you would agree with me the president deserves a tremendous amount of credit for this.
So the phone and text lines are open at 877-301-8970. How concerned are you with what you saw or read yesterday, with what RFK is doing to health and health sciences and public health in America? And what happens when there's inevitably another public health crisis in our country? So you think we're even remotely protected and prepared with Dr. Brainworm at the helm? Or are you subscribing to the notion that he will make America healthy again? Let us know at 877-301-8970. You watched a lot of this hearing yesterday.
I did, and I think we have two unhinged people running much of our government. One of them, of course, is Donald Trump, who's been unhinged for years, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr., his family, as we all know, wrote these scathing articles, including Caroline Kennedy, his cousin, saying what a danger he is. You know what it looked like to me? It looked like he's been taking too many steroids and he's now got road rage going on. He was calling everybody liars. He was argumentative.
Roid rage.
What did I say?
Road rage. His play is road rage too, by the way.
How do you say it?
Roid rage.
Roid rage. Thank you very much. He's got roid rage. Something's wrong with him, and I think it's very scary, and thank goodness Maura Healey says everybody in Massachusetts can get their vaccines paid for, not the rest of the country, and it's a little scary.
You have kids, Keith Lockhart, and by the way, you're lucky enough to be in Massachusetts where Healey made this announcement, I think the first in the country. If you're in another state, if your kids are healthy, it's a total crapshoot as to whether or not they get a vaccine.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's hard to imagine this person leading, our health policy for years to come.
Do you know him, by the way? Do you know him?
Never met. Whenever I talk to other members of the family whom I do know, they just kind of change the subject quickly. But we do know he can do 50 pull-ups and
Yeah.
10 minutes. So.
And 100 sit-ups, by the way, with that other lunatic, Hegseth, the Secretary of the Department of War. So the question is, what's your reaction to this Kennedy stuff yesterday at 877-301-8970? And, you know, there was a lot of lying yesterday. For example, he kept saying, Elizabeth Warren, I thought, did a fabulous job with him, too. When he's talking about, well, people can get it if they want it. CVS has already said that we are not guaranteeing that we're going to make it available anywhere unless you have a prescription. A lot of people don't have a doctor to write a prescription. A lot of people don't have the money, even if a prescription was written, to pay for it if insurance is not going to cover it. So this is this whole vaccine thing. And let me say one more thing. By the way, Cassidy said more about the Nobel Prize that was really great. Last week, I think it was, Robert Kennedy Jr. said Trump deserves the Nobel Prize for Operation Warp Speed. And then in the last day, he says that the mRNA vaccine is one of the most dangerous vaccines that has ever been created.
And he's cut all the funding for
And he's cut all the funding
for research.
And it's also, I think, worth pointing out that this Kaiser poll, they do a lot of healthcare polls. 81% of parents in America want vaccine mandates for their children because it protects them in school, and it also protects children who can't get, vaccines are for others in many cases. They're so that children who can't get vaccinated because they're sick or they have pre-existing conditions will not be infected with measles, mumps, rubella by kids who are not vaccinated. And the other thing is, he kept talking about our chronic disease problem. And he's right, we do have a chronic disease problem, RFK Jr., but it's got nothing to do with vaccines. It's got to do with food and pesticides and chemicals and lifestyles. It's not about vaccines. He kept trying to conflate the two, and they're unrelated.
Well, like he conflated and mixed up Medicare and Medicaid in his hearing. By the way, we're getting a ton of these kind of texts already. Denise from Marlboro, capital letters, I am loving Keith being part of the show. Tell him he'll do great, you'll do great.
Thank you.
Tim, who says, I'm a totally unknown human in Milton. How do I sign up to be a guest host? And we have an answer, Tim. You conduct the Boston Pops for 30 years, and we will consider whether you can do it. Kevin in the car, you were first with Margery Egan, Keith Lockhart, and me, Jim Browdy. Hi, Kevin.
Hey there. I wanted to connect the RFK Jr. issue with the opening or the fight to keep the government open that is pending, which is always a difficult and risky fight for the party risking shutdown. But it seems to me that instead of making some wonky arguments, the Democrats could just very simply say, RFK goes, we'll keep the government open. The whole, the vast majority of the country is against this. It's time to step outside, negotiate directly with Trump, just like he gets into New York City politics, he gets into everything. I really hope that the Democrats can do something that sort of, takes command of the narrative for this upcoming fight. They have some cards, they have some leverage, and they should choose the issue that is most aligned with what the country wants and just force Trump to make a decision.
Kevin, thanks for your call. We discussed the potential shutdown at the end of the month yesterday with Chuck Todd. And by the way, we got some texts saying we should have explained. People said, why would they need Democratic votes to begin with? Because this is not something, the government shutdown funding thing. You need 60 votes, which means you need at least 7 Democrats if all the Republicans vote for it. What do you think about the Democrats taking a stand and saying, if Kennedy goes, we'll vote to keep government open, and if he doesn't, we don't, Keith?
Well, has it worked before, I think, is the question. I mean, what we seem to see with the atrocity of the day is that when he's challenged, Trump doubles down on his choices, and eventually we fall in the line. And I'd love to see an actual stand on something that average Americans actually care about.
That's exactly what Chuck's position was yesterday. Take a stand so that an average person out there knows what you're standing for and that you're going to stand. The other problem, beyond the one that
We're talking about Obamacare subsidies, what was a big thing, which is going to impact millions of people who have Obamacare.
But arguably, this affects almost everybody.
Yep.
Other than if you're over 65, where you are entitled, or if you have some immuno problems or whatever, if you're a kid. But, let's assume he fires Kennedy, which obviously is a huge victory for normal people. What's to say that a better than Kennedy alternative takes his place? I mean, who in that cabinet is somebody that Americans
Well, you'd think
can feel
that the
good about?
Cassidy's and the people that voted,
maybe
the
that's
physician
true.
Cassidy
That's a
that
good point.
made kind of a fool of himself by believing what RFK Jr. said and voted for him, even though he told that. Remember, he told that poignant story about the patient of his that died because I think it was hepatitis. Was it hepatitis B that he didn't get?
I know what you're talking about.
He didn't get a vaccine that he could have gotten and should have gotten, and the young man died. And I think that was what was fueling Cassidy's, part of it anyway, his enthusiasm for vaccines. Also, he's a physician, and he knows that they do work. But I think he and some other people might change their mind.
By the way, yesterday, I should say, while the Republicans, Barrasso, the number 2 Republican, who's also a doctor.
He was tough.
And however, as a lot of Democrats said last night, these guys not only voted to confirm him, but when they were asked yesterday by reporters, do they still have faith in them? Should he resign? Do you regret your vote? Not one of them would answer the question. By the way, another texter seems to be a dominant theme. Anonymous texter, why is Keith Lockhart physically separating himself from Jim? Do you have an answer to that? You are pretty far away. What's the answer?
The answer is that I was separated by you. You told me I'll stand over here.
Right. I forgot. Right. I did say as far away. That's exactly.
He didn't want to share the screen. You know what I mean? He's way over there. He wouldn't have to.
Seriously, why isn't this just the tip of the iceberg?
What do you mean by that?
With the CDC dropping recommendations for COVID, when does measles happen?
Exactly.
Once they drop their recommendation, they no longer have to be provided at no cost.
Exactly. Unless a governor like Healy does what she did yesterday. And you told us this morning, which I didn't know, Keith, that the New York governor, Hochul's contemplating doing the same thing. Mm-hmm. Healy is the first in the country that is guaranteed that not only will happen, insurance will cover it. And what I didn't read is if you don't have insurance, I hope she said, the state will pay for the vaccine.
Well, I think in Massachusetts, at least right now, most everybody is on mass
Well, what
health.
if you're not? What if you're uninsured?
I don't know.
I think still 4% or 7% or something. Okay.
By the way, a texter points out it is September. RFK Jr. said we were going to know what caused autism by September. He, of course, has said since it's September and he hasn't found the cause, we have to delay that. But that's a good point. Why don't we know what causes autism?
You know, one last thing. I'm so obsessed with this. I promise we'll get back to the calls in a second. Bernie Sanders is another one who did a good job yesterday. He was reading, the hundreds of thousands of members of the American Medical Association, the Pediatrician Society, whatever the hell it's called, all have said you're wrong on this stuff. What organizations do you have on your side? He listed 3 individuals who are either in his employ or work under him. That's his response to the major medical organizations in the country.
Don't you like your children's pediatrician? Doesn't everybody love their kids' pediatricians? Pediatricians are like the salt of the earth.
They are.
Yeah.
And, but at this point, what does expert counsel have to do with decision making?
Well, that's exactly right. People called him a charlatan yesterday. And you know what the other thing is how disrespectful he was. I've never seen someone before Congress.
Roid rage, as you said. Roid rage.
And calling them all liars.
Whatever it is.
And all that. I mean, I think he's a man with very serious problems. We know how he treated his wives, and we know how he's conducted his life so far, and I don't know why anybody believes this guy.
Well, the current wife seems to be pretty happy. Larry David's
she wasn't there with him yesterday.
Well, she's been with him a lot of places.
Okay.
Jen in Framingham, you are next on BPR with Keith Lockhart, Margery, Egan, and me. Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Hi. That's when you say,
what do you think,
here's why
Jen?
I called. Go ahead. Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay.
I'm here.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Now you speak.
Technical issues.
Okay.
Now I speak. Okay, so thanks for taking my call.
Of course.
I am a genetic counselor.
Oh.
And I just want to point out that what we're seeing in research with mRNA vaccines is incredible in the field of cancer. We're seeing remissions, extended remissions in pancreatic and glioblastoma cancers, which are historically untreatable.
Are you talking about the mRNA
Yeah, she is.
stuff? Yeah, that he's just canceled the research
And what's the consequence of, as Margery said, taking $600 million or some amount of money out of the research? What's the consequence for what you're talking about, the expansion of what mRNA can treat?
I think it's going to devastate the future of cancer.
Yeah.
Jen, thanks for adding. You know what? My understanding, I'm not a doctor, as Margery often says, but neither am I. And I don't think you are. Are you a doctor? No, you're not.
No.
Okay. Pancreatic cancer may be the most deadly of the cancers.
And as that
caller just said, mRNA in research vaccines are being shown to have some positive impact on pancreatic cancer, and he's pulling the rug out from the whole damn thing here. I mean, it's just unbelievable.
Well, the consequences of all these things go decades beyond where we can see and beyond our lifetimes.
Well, you know,
that's
by
what
the way,
we were talking about before the show. Is any of this and what other things Trump is doing? How much of this is reversible? I don't know. Will we reverse any of this stuff? I don't know.
Well, it's a quantitative thing. There are so many things that would need to be reversed to come up with some sort of normalcy again.
Well, by the way, but there's another point to the it kind of be. I think we asked Dr. Jha the other day, now he's the head of the School of Public Health at Brown, and obviously was Biden's COVID advisor. You can't just, if this stuff disappears for 3.5 years, which is what's left in at least the second term, we don't know about a third term for Trump, you don't just turn the switch back on. All these years of research are lost. We spoke to that woman doing the TB lab at Harvard that's all over the world.
Tuberculosis.
And they they almost had to kill the primates that they were working with. So you don't just turn it off and then turn it back on. So I think that's a really important point.
We have a question. We have a question from a texter, and we could ask this of you, Keith. All of America is asking, when will Jim Browdy guest conduct the Boston Pops?
That's a very good idea.
Tux and a dickie.
I am free. I am available most days.
In a tux and a dickie?
Yeah, tux and a dickie. That's right.
Okay,
Jim likes dickies.
What's the answer?
The answer is we can work on that.
We can work on that?
We can work on that.
That is terrifying. Thank you.
Not for 3 hours, though.
By the way, can I tell you
No, I
something?
don't think so. 3 minutes, maybe.
We have done the night before Christmas, thanks to Keith, a couple of times. Margery walks out on the stage, packed house, obviously, Christmas pops, which we'll talk about later, totally calm as a cucumber, cool as a cucumber. I am in total abject panic, and all we're doing is what's the guy's name?
Clement Clark Moore.
Oh, there he is. We're reading it, and I'm in total terror. And you're not in terror here, which is really upsetting to me.
Well, I'm more, I hide it well.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Ellen in a car, you're on BPR. We're talking about RFK Jr.'s pitiful performance yesterday, unless you think otherwise. Hi.
I do not think otherwise. Good morning, everyone.
Hi.
I think people, unfortunately, Americans in 2025 need to see how it affects them directly. And, you have to put things into terms where you say, your kid comes home with measles and is hospitalized, and now you have to fight with the insurance company because they carved out a third party, and they're denying everything, or they deny it completely, and you have to fight for months to get it paid. Or you could have gotten a shot that would have prevented this whole thing.
I agree. This brings
it makes no sense to me.
I'm sorry. Well, it makes no sense, one, because of the harm it will do, not could do, will do to so many people in this country. But as we said yesterday, the irony is from the first term of Donald Trump, even Trump critics, I think, would acknowledge, I know Margery and I do, his Operation Warp Speed that had a vaccine in a year is historic and saved millions of lives.
It was a great
RFK Jr. refused to answer the question yesterday about how many lives were lost from COVID.
Because he doesn't believe it.
Yeah.
I mean, he thinks it's there were people that had underlying conditions or something like that.
Every fact that's inconvenient is fake news.
That's exactly right. That is exactly right.
That's incredible. A lot of us, you feel like when I always say I'm not a doctor, I'm not a lawyer, all these things, because that's not an area of expertise. He's not a doctor, obviously. He's a lawyer who did a lot of good work on environmental stuff. But where does he get off thinking he knows more than all these experts? When people say, I'm going to do my own research, I think, really? So you think that your research will be better than people who spent 9 years studying biochemistry or something like that. It's really
we don't say, you don't like this because it's an excuse, and it is. It's not. He has serious mental illness. There's no way you can watch somebody like that. And now, I'm not taking away any of the animus that is part of his being, But the guy is so serious. There was another moment when, what's her face? Menares, is that how you pronounce her name?
The woman that got fired,
CDC.
yeah, the head of the CDC.
She writes a piece in the Wall Street Journal explaining that he asked her to do unconscionable, unethical things. He said she was lying. And he said, this is what he says to her. He said a conversation with her in which he says, can you imagine this for a second? He says to somebody who works for him, "Are you trustworthy?" Those are his words exactly. And her answer is no. Imagine that.
That was his claim.
And that's why he had to get rid of her.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. Who in the world would say that? Are you untrustworthy? No, I'm not. I mean, that's his claim.
You ever said that to your lead violinist there, Keith Lockhart, or no?
Well, they've always answered yes.
Whether they are or not.
Exactly.
But, well, I mean, maybe, I think you're right. There's a serious mental problem there. Maybe it's ultra-processed foods.
It could be.
It's another fine point.
It could be. They've had a lot of tragedy in their lives, obviously, but you'd think that he could maybe get help for his problems, because he certainly can afford it. Anyway, we're talking about public health in America. We're talking mainly about the performance yesterday of RFK Jr., who is running health care for all the rest of us United States and America. Thank goodness in Massachusetts, the governor, Maura Healey, is overridden or overrode or whatever she's done to make sure that people here can get vaccines, get them paid for. But what do you think about this whole situation? We're talking here with Jim Braude and Boston Pop's conductor Keith Lockhart. You're listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. More of your calls and texts right after this quick break.
Millions of Iranians rely on virtual private networks or VPNs to evade government censors when they're online.
When we live in the free world, it's really hard to imagine how a world without internet works.
Now, a funding freeze in the U.S. means a VPN used by Iranians may have shut down for good. That story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And the Boston Speakers Series, continuing its season at Symphony Hall with 7 evenings, including Dr. Anthony Fauci, Ken Burns, Outliers author Malcolm Gladwell, and geopolitical economist Pippa Malmgren. BostonSpeakers.org. And The Wilbur. Phil Rosenthal returns to Boston for 2 nights on his Somebody Feed Phil tour, Wednesday, September 10th and Thursday, September 11th. Tickets and information are available at thewilbur.com.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. I'm Boston Pop's conductor Keith Lockhart.
This is incredible.
Here with local puppets, Jim Braude and Margery Egan. I did not write this.
Well,
we're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. If you're just tuning in, we're taking your calls and texts at 877-301-8970, getting your thoughts on RFK Jr. and the rewriting of America's public health policy. Here is Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren yesterday clashing over access to vaccines.
You promised that you would not take away vaccines from anyone who wanted them. You just changed the classification of the COVID vaccine.
I'm not taking them away from people, Senator.
It takes it away if you can't get it from your pharmacist.
Well, I never promised that I was going to recommend products with which there is no indication.
What's your take? Wow. Give us a call or text at 877-301-8970.
Warren was great yesterday, too. Sanders was great. The 2 Republican doctors were great. Helen in the car, you're next on BPR. Welcome to the show. Hi.
Hi, good morning. I am trustworthy.
Well,
that's what you say.
You may continue.
Go ahead, Helen.
So I come from a university research background, and I worked very closely on federal grants and also as an institutional review board member. And we worked with FDA, with CDC, with NIH. And the fact that there won't be experts behind all of those decisions now is very, I mean, it's disheartening to me and it's appalling. The other thing I wanted to say, We have a 2-year-old grandson. They live here in Massachusetts, and my son and daughter-in-law are a little terrified right now. So thank you. Thank you for taking my call.
Thank you for saying what you said, Helen. We appreciate your call. 877-301-8970 is the... no, can I repeat what I said before? If these Republican doctors, senators who voted for his confirmation, feeling he is not only betraying the American people, but betraying the commitment he made to them in his confirmation, which he is, then they should man up, in their cases, decide they can stand up to Donald Trump and say this guy's got to go.
Well, you know what was interesting? I thought Trump's reaction was interesting. It was far from a wholehearted endorsement of him. He talked about how his approach to healthcare is a little bit different. It's something different. You know, I don't know.
But he then went on to say, we need different. I want different. I like different.
He said that, but I don't know. I mean, I'm wondering if between Epstein and this vaccine situation, it might... I've been saying for 8 years, this is going to end Trump. This is going to end Trump. Nothing ever ends Trump. But maybe. And when it comes to your own children,
that's exactly how I feel. Of course, we all thought that after Sandy Hook too, when 26 and 7-year-olds were killed. That's going to change the gun debate, and it did nothing, obviously.
Actually caused again the doubling down.
As it always does.
Yeah,
that is true.
The doubling down. So maybe I'm just being naive. Robin from New Hampshire, thank you for calling.
Hi, Robin.
Hello.
Hello.
What do you
think? I want to talk about measles vaccinations for children.
Yep.
If a child is under treatment with chemotherapeutic agents and they get measles, they are dead. They are not sick.
Yeah, Robin, you've raised the most crucial point here is that if children who are undergoing chemotherapy treatment or other kinds of treatment vaccinated are next to children in school that are not vaccinated and could be measles spreaders, that's a big problem. You're right. It could kill them. It's horrible.
Robin, thanks for the call. You know, I want to do what I try to do every day, inject a little fear into this conversation. Imagine the parent who not only has to worry about the kid who has measles, but as soon as they find out their kid has measles, has to worry about whether or not they can get whatever the appropriate treatment is. Or there's a kid with measles in their class. They want to get vaccinated. Can I get vaccinated? The fear factor that's connected to this insane anti-science position.
Do we mention Florida? Do we mention what happened in Florida?
Do say it. We mentioned the other day, not today.
That Florida under Ron DeSantis and that kind of crazy physician guy he's got
Surgeon General.
Yeah, I don't know what's wrong. His problem. Anyway, they've announced that they're going to not require vaccinations to get into school in Florida, which means a lot of people in Florida. 81% of people in America, parents want vaccinations for their kids. They want school vaccines, but that means 20% don't. So you don't know what's going to happen. If you've got a kid with an underlying condition in Florida, I don't know if you can send them to school.
Well, might be a great microcosm for the kind of public health crisis that will create change.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to say this, but is anybody really going to push back on this till something dire happens?
Well, by the way, it is true. If you look at those polling numbers you talk about, they're far lower in red states that have far greater numbers of people who think that Trump and anybody who Trump hires is gospel. And as a result, it's not will there be, there are going to be deaths.
By the way, red states where many more people did not get vaccinated than in blue states are where the predominant numbers of deaths happened after the first wave, before the vaccines. After the vaccines, people that did not get vaccinated were the vast majority of people that were in the hospital and that died.
You know what's incredible about this, just before we...
But they haven't been tested yet, says RFK Jr.
Before we conclude
we need
this,
more tests.
You know what's actually interesting is we're going to have a situation... I know it's not an original thought, but it's true. I assume that not just as you told us, New York governor is going to probably do what Healy did here yesterday. Virtually every blue state governor is going to do the same thing, which means if you're in a red state with a governor who cares more about Trump and allegiance to him than they do about the health of your citizenry, you're probably not going to do any mandates or any provision of vaccines. So there's going to be two Americas when it comes to one of the most important public health things ever.
There already are two Americas.
There are two Americas. That's the only thing John Edwards ever said that is quotable. Would you not agree?
It's, yes, the only thing I can remember that he said.
Exactly. That is right.
Well, he probably said a few other things to some of those people that he was involved with.
What was her name, Riley, the one he had the kid with?
Yeah, Riley, I forget her last name. That was her first name.
Memories.
Yeah.
I'll tell you.
Yeah, those were such quaint days, weren't they? When it was just people having affairs. That was all we had to worry about. Anyway, thank you for your calls and texts. We're out of time. Coming up after this quick break, we're going to talk with CNN's Brian Stelter. He's zooming in for this edition of Press Play. We're going to talk to him about job numbers, press coverage, ABC, NBC, CBS's travails. I'm Margery Egan here with Jim Braude and Boston Pop's conductor Keith Lockhart. You're listening to BPR and GBH and 8 p.m. live from the Boston Public Library, streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Brian Stelter from CNN is up next.
I'm Jared Bowen. Today on The Culture Show, remembering Giorgio Armani. He founded an empire built on understated elegance, transforming menswear, red carpet looks, and celebrity style. Plus, 3 new designs are in the running to adorn the new Massachusetts state flag, each reimagining the Commonwealth's identity for a new era. We take on that and more on The Culture Show's Week in Review, today at 2 on 89.7 GBH.
GBH News and NPR bring you in-depth, quality coverage of what's happening in our region, our country, and across the globe. Our journalists dig deeper into the issues that matter most, so we can understand the facts in context. But it takes a community of support. That's where GBH sustainers come in. People like you who make easy monthly gifts of just $10 or $20 a month to help this station report on the news that affects us all. Learn more at gbh.org/sustainer.
Welcome back to BPR on GBH and NEPM. I'm Boston Pop's conductor Keith Lockhart.
This is incredible.
Every time I say that, I get applause. It's
that's
weird.
Shocking.
Here with regular hosts, as opposed to puppets, it said the last time, Jim Braude and Margery Egan. We're broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. It's time now for our weekly media analysis segment, Press Play. We're joined via Zoom by Brian Stelter, Chief Media Analyst for CNN Worldwide and the lead author of the Reliable Sources newsletter.
Which is great.
His latest book is Network of Lies, the epic saga of Fox News, Donald Trump, and the battle for American democracy. Brian, welcome back to BPR.
Hey, Brian.
Hey, great to be here. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Brian, for being back with us again. We really, I'm so glad you're back to Reliable Sources. Anyway, job numbers weren't that great this morning. New labor numbers, 22,000 new jobs, I think, created, which isn't terrific. But last time, Trump didn't like the job numbers. He fired the director. Is the director going to get fired again? You read about this morning. What'd you say?
This is so strange. Don't you think? I mean, we have been used to getting these numbers every month for our entire lives. Like this is how Friday mornings work. 8:30, you turn on CNBC, you see the jobs numbers, and that should be the end of it. Only in the Trump era, with this mass denial of reality, do we have to even wonder if there's going to be a further consequence or a further fallout. But I think we are all on our pins and needles wondering what Trump's going to say about the numbers. Is he going to deny this reality? Is he going to take further action? CNN is just out this morning with a new story about the new appointee, the new pick to run the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and bigoted posts that he had put on social media in the past. So there's still a process for putting that new boss in place. In the meantime, these rank and file employees, these government workers, are just trying to tell us what's going on in our country. They call the BLS a fact-finding agency, and I think that's a great phrase. They're just trying to figure out what the facts are about the labor market. But like everything else, It's been politicized.
If I were him, I'd just put the guy who's in charge of the Department of War in charge of labor statistics number. So, Brian Stelter, the situation in Gaza, we talked to a woman who works with one of the UN relief agencies. She zooms in from Gaza City every couple of weeks. Just unimaginably horrible any way you look at it. And when it comes to journalists, listen to the conclusion of a Brown University study in April, that Israeli attacks in Gaza since the war began in October of 23 have killed more journalists than the U.S. Civil War, World War I and II, the Korean War, Vietnam War, the wars in Yugoslavia in the 90s and 2000s, and the post-9/11 war in Afghanistan combined. And at the same time, there are some incredibly wonderful independent journalists who are trying to get into Gaza to report the true story, but Israel is precluding them from doing that. Starting at the end and working our way backwards, has there been a war situation in recent times that you know of where independent journalists have been prevented from doing the covering?
There are a unique set of circumstances here that make this, an unprecedented situation. In terms of the number of dead, the number of journalists in Gaza who have been killed, and in terms of the severe limits on access. Yes, in any war zone, it's difficult to have access to the full picture. Yes, that's always been true. But in this case, because Israel and Egypt control who is able to get in and out of Gaza, and because Israel is not allowing journalists into Gaza, we're only able to rely on people who are there, locals on the ground. And increasingly, those locals are being targeted by Israel. So I thought this week's campaign by Reporters Without Borders was really telling. They were able to get hundreds of media outlets from around the world, including some here in the U.S., to sign on a show of solidarity to pressure Israel to allow journalists in and to stop the attacks against journalists. And the quote that stood out to me, guys, was from Reporters Without Borders saying, "At the rate journalists are being killed in Gaza by the Israeli army, there will soon be no one left to keep you informed." That makes the stakes of this very clear.
Brian, the number is something like 277 journalists confirmed killed so far in the Gaza conflict. Are all those targeted killings, or is this just a matter of the way the war is being prosecuted?
Well, for one thing, Israel says that some of those journalists, some of the people that are counted as journalists, are actually working with Hamas. And so this is certainly muddied for that reason. It's complicated for that reason. You have charges from Israel, from the IDF, that certain prominent journalists, like the Al Jazeera correspondent who was recently targeted, that journalist was associated with Hamas. Al Jazeera, in that case, strongly denied the allegation. In fact, the correspondent denied the allegation when he was still alive. So you end up having this war of words. At the same time, you have this very real war that's ongoing. And no, not every killing of a journalist in Gaza is targeted toward that individual journalist. Some of these are what the Israeli government admits are tragic mistakes. But when you add it all up over the course of years, what you see is that it's getting harder and harder and harder to see what's happening in Gaza, to hear what's happening in Gaza, to know what's happening there, because there are fewer and fewer eyewitnesses who are physically able to get the information out.
We're talking with CNN's chief media analyst, Brian Stelter, who does the wonderful Reliable Sources newsletter. Bari Weiss is a well-known journalist. Tell us about her and why it may be problematic for CBS News that she may be about to go there and run the news department.
It's interesting you said that, because there's some breaking news about CBS News. I was just having to send out a text about.
There is?
I'll tell you that also.
Oh.
There's two big things happening with CBS News this week. Number one is Bari Weiss. The new owner of Paramount, David Ellison, he is trying to buy the Free Press, which is the startup that Bari Weiss launched 3-4 years ago. It launched relatively modestly. It has now become a big success, gaining subscribers. It's known for its heterodox and often anti-woke columns and articles. Bari Weiss has succeeded in growing that business, and David Ellison very strongly agrees with her politics, her political orientation, her approach to news, and so he's trying to bring her on board. He's trying to acquire the Free Press and then bring Bari Weiss on board to help run CBS News. It's so interesting because CBS News is this political object. It doesn't want to be, but President Trump sued 60 Minutes last year. We all know about the Paramount settlement as a result. And this news division is now under such a microscope, which brings me to the other big story about CBS News this week. Kristi Noem was complaining about how the Sunday morning show Face the Nation edited part of her interview last Sunday the other day and said, well, we put the entire interview on YouTube. We released the entire transcript. We simply edited it for time, and that decision met our standards. Some media critics pointed out that the things that were taken out from the TV broadcast were lies, misrepresentations, exaggerations by Noem. Didn't make her look very good. Anyway, while we're talking here this morning, CBS News came out with a statement saying, from now on, we're only going to broadcast live or live-to-tape interviews. We're not going to edit Face the Nation interviews anymore. Isn't that interesting? Now, at first blush, it sort of sounds like they are afraid of the backlash from the Trump administration, that they are uncomfortable with the criticism from Noem and others, that they were trying to change what Noem said or hide what Noem said. So it's an interesting move by CBS saying, we're going to be more transparent. We're only going to air interviews live or the entire taped interview. We're not going to edit them anymore.
What do you think about that, Brian Stelter?
I think it is going to be interpreted as another example of capitulation, that there's another example of a big news division fearing the Trump administration, fearing the criticism. But I'm thinking about it out loud here as we are live. There is a real benefit to live interviews, right? To seeing people think on their feet, to seeing the flaws and the ums and the uhs and all the other stuff that happens on live interviews. So there is also a strong argument to make that being transparent can win trust, can earn the audience's trust rather than lose it.
But it's really hard to say, considering the timing. CBS has been around a long time. There would have been appropriate moments to reconsider the editing process in past years, but lo and behold, the administration...
But it does take away one of their chief sources that they're always saying, well, you took me out of context, or I didn't say that, or you edited it. Well...
To what end, Margery?
Well, I think what Brian just touched on, for those people that want to believe all this, that we're manipulating the news all the time, if you're actually broadcasting it live to tape and there's no editing, it does take away.
I'll tell you what they'll do, is they lied. It wasn't live to tape. Well, they said it was, but it wasn't. They edited it.
And there's another layer of problem. If you have an interview subject, if you have a guest who keeps saying the sky is orange or the sky is purple, the pressure is going to be even more intense on the interviewer to rebut, to challenge, to interrupt, to try to push the reality, to try to provide reality amid this unreality.
You just run a simultaneous fact check directly underneath. Wrong. Yes.
By the way, I think that's a real serious issue that I'm sure Brian and I know we talk about all the time, is when and how should fact check. For example, there was a big debate about one of your debates not so long ago with two of your great journalists. I think it was Jake Tapper. Was it Dana that were doing that debate? Where there was not a lot of fact checking done. I am great admirers of both, but there was criticism of the network for deciding not to do that. But it's real-time fact checking is a really tough thing to do, Brian Stelter.
And it's not getting any easier. This is something I feel like I started talking about and analyzing about a decade ago, because Trump did change everything when it comes to this conversation about the media, the volume of lies, the fire hose of falsehood is something that a decade later, the press is still grappling with. And it's not just coming from Trump, it's coming from so many other political figures, largely on the right, that it does make these interviews much more challenging and frankly much more combative, which leads to further polarization.
Yeah, I think it's very hard to fact check in real time too, trying to do it in a debate or something like that. But I think it's almost become something you have to do. And I'm never sure whether the reporter doesn't do it because they don't know the answer, or because they're intimidated, or what. I mean, some people do it.
Can you type as fast as Trump can lie? And I don't mean that as a joke.
Yeah.
Can you do it?
I don't know. Who's the British guy from the New York Times that really nailed Trump in that interview when he went back at him every...
Jonathan Swan.
Jonathan Swan. He certainly did it very well. And the late, great Tim Russert did it really well. Some people can do it.
But so much of it is beyond the realm of fact-checking. When President Trump says, the country was dead a year ago, and now we're the hottest in the world. I don't think that's fact-checkable.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. That's a good point.
Brian, one of the things we're most obsessed with here is capitulation, whether you're law firms, universities, media giants, and the naive belief. Well, obviously, the CBS thing might not have been a naive belief. A lot of people believe, and I'm among them, that it was a Redstone bribe to get their merger approved. But putting that aside for a second, look at ABC, for example. They pay $16 million when ABC is sued because George Stephanopoulos used the term rape instead of, I think, what the judge ruled in the E. Jean Carroll thing was a sexual abuse, sexual something. And by the way, that same act would be rape under Massachusetts law, even though it wasn't under New York law. They pay $16 million, and what they get for it is X number of months later, Trump says, well, their license should be taken away. And it seems to me that in the media particularly, there is this naivete that if you do things that make Trump happy, write him a big check, don't edit interviews anymore, that he'll be nice in the future. And my analysis from afar is he just sees you as an easier target to go back after again.
With regards to ABC, he recently said, pay me more. He referred to that $16 million settlement, and he said, pay me more. He was mad about, I don't know, some guest on one of the ABC shows. He is, of course, an obsessive television viewer, and that drives so much of what policy is from the White House, and also his claims, his truths on Truth Social, his demands toward media companies. And this is what I'm personally most obsessed about on my beat right now. It's what you just said. It's these acts of proverbial surrender. If readers are interested, if viewers are interested, listeners are interested, email me. I'm bstelter@gmail. I'm thinking about doing a big project on this. I think it's a really important topic. It's the through line through all these different media stories of the moment, whether it is Paramount or ABC or public broadcasting or some of the others. This version of surrender. But I want to push back and make the counter argument just for fun, okay?
Sure.
I went onto the ABC News website. How's ABC handling the news this morning? The lead story is about the hiring slowdown. It's about him firing that jobs commissioner, and yet here's another jobs report, and it's pretty ugly. It's pretty weak is the word ABC uses. And then the story after that is about DC residents pressing to get rid of the National Guard, on the troops. And so ABC is still doing the work. They're still doing the journalism. They're still covering the news. I think they're still covering the Trump stories pretty aggressively. So it's not a total capitulation. It's not the rank and file just giving up on the news. But it is, at the corporate level, this attempt to make peace with a president who will never make peace. Because as you said, he will just call for your license to be revoked.
We're talking to Brian Stelter, CNN's media guy. I'm sorry, Keith.
No, I was just going to say, sounds like appeasement. Sounds like peace in our time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, Brian, I want to play a little sound for you. You wrote about this. Here's Donald Trump blaming AI, or A1 maybe, after Fox News' Peter Doocy asked about an online video of someone throwing bags out of a White House window. Here's Trump.
No, that's probably AI generated. So actually, you can't open the windows. You know why? They're all heavily armored and bulletproof. So that's a fake video? Well, it's got to be, because I know every window up there. And one of the problems we have with AI, it's both good and bad. If something happens really bad, just blame AI. But also they create things, it works both ways.
By the way, Brian, it was AI when he said he could grab him by the you-know-what. Did you know that? It was not even him. So what's your, you wrote about this. What's your take, Brian Stelter?
9 years ago, he absolutely would have said that Access Hollywood video was AI. Look, I think his acknowledgement, it's something that a lot of journalists have felt, a lot of media insiders have felt for a couple of years now, and now the president is saying it out loud. That these deep fakes are a real problem. They're not a scary preview of the future. They are a scary reality about today. This idea that AI will become a tool to deny reality, to sow doubt, to undermine reporting. We're there. It's happening. In the case of that black bag mystery, those bags being thrown out the White House window, sources told CNN that was real renovation work. Other news outlets were even quoting a White House spokesperson saying that there was maintenance work being done at the White House. So you hear President Trump claiming he knows every window. The windows are too heavy. They're all sealed up. It must have been an AI video. To me, that spoke volumes about where we are now in this unfortunate reality where even a video clip from the White House can be claimed to be fake.
I just wonder what your take is on South Park. South Park has been really going after Trump, making fun of him left and right. He's overweight and wandering on the desert, and he's naked, and they make fun of him. And now he's in
He left
bed
something
with
out.
Satan.
and
His little
now
tiny
he's about
penis.
to be a daddy.
Little
Yeah.
tiny,
that too.
yeah. And they're owned like CBS by Paramount. So what's the deal with South Park? They're really sticking it to the president.
And winning ratings and winning acclaim for it. I think this shows, it says something about media economics, the business of media. A lot of people have asked me, why did Paramount go ahead and cancel Stephen Colbert's show on the one hand, and then put South Park on the air with this scathing criticism of Trump? And I think the answer is that, in the streaming era, South Park is a lot more valuable. I talked to David Ellison about this, the new CEO of Paramount, and he said to me, number one, South Park is an equal opportunity offender. They go after everybody. And he said, this is a show that's incredibly valuable in streaming because people want to watch episodes from 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago. And, like it or not, that's just not true for late night TV, right? Colbert's show from 5 years ago is not very valuable, not valuable at all on streaming. So I think we're seeing Paramount stand up for South Park, celebrate South Park's ratings, even though it's a thorn in the president's side, because it's so darn valuable to the future of the streaming product that Paramount has. And maybe that's a pathway forward. Maybe that's a positive sign if you believe that it's important to have criticism and dissent and satire of the American president, no matter who he is. You can look at South Park as a positive sign.
What do you think of David Ellison?
Very ambitious and very young. Here's why I say that. I just had my 40th birthday, so I know that I'm not
Happy birthday.
Thank you. I know I'm not the oldest one necessarily, in the room. Love you all. But I'm now covering people on my beat who are my contemporaries, who are now around the same age as I am, and I'm not used to that. I'm used to covering these guys that could be my dad or my granddad. But
It
my
only
point
gets
is
worse,
that
by the way.
he's of a younger generation. He played video games his entire life. He grew up watching South Park. So he is going to bring a different attitude toward his new media company than some of these moguls that people read about, the Bob Igers, who's about to retire again from Disney. So what does that mean for Paramount? I don't know, but I think it's going to be interesting to watch. Look, they just greenlit a movie based on the Call of Duty video game franchise. And that comes from his love for the video games. So it'll be notable to see what kind of moves he makes based on that perspective.
Well, Brian Stelter, thank you so much for being with
Brian,
us.
it's great to see you. Happy birthday.
Good to see you all too.
Big
Thank you. Thanks so
fans of
much.
your work.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you for joining us. We've been speaking with lead author of the Reliable Sources newsletter and CNN's chief media analyst, Brian Stelter. His work is terrific. You got to check it out. He joined us for our weekly press play segment. And thanks again to Brian for his time. We say goodbye to you listening at NEPM, and we're really grateful to those of you who are tuned in from NEPM. You can tune into the fabulous 413 at 3 o'clock this afternoon, and our whole show is going to be up there on the 16th of September. I got those dates right. Yeah, broadcasting from Springfield. But the other show, BPR, continues here in Boston with Live Music Friday with Jacyn Tremblay, actor and singer Mandy Gonzalez, and author and actor Marianne Leone. We're going to have a fun afternoon from here on out. I'm Margery Egan with Jim Browdy and Boston Pop's conductor Keith Lockhart. You are listening to BPR and GBH and NEPM live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
You're listening to Boston Public Radio with Jim Browdy and Margery Egan. Just ahead, more smart conversation about what's going on in our community. Stay with us here on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Cape Playhouse in Dennis Village. Now playing the story of comedic legend Joan Rivers. Joan, through September 20th. Tickets at capeplayhouse.com. Ken Burns and Lynn Novick go behind the tales of gangsters, flappers, and speakeasies to reveal a divided nation in the throes of momentous transformation. Watch Prohibition tonight at 9 on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Keith Lockhart, ahead on hour number 2 of BPR, live from the Boston Public Library. It's Live Music Friday.
I'm Jim Browder. Yes, Jacyn Tremblay joins us ahead of a Boston Pops event next Friday. Her band, 3 Second Chances, is all about inspiring people to follow their dreams, sort of like Keith Lockhart co-hosting the show.
Okay, I'm Margery Egan. Then we'll check in with Mandy Gonzalez. You may know her from the Broadway production of Hamilton. She's performing an entire show of Lin-Manuel Miranda music with the Boston Pops. All that and more next on the second hour of BPR 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. Hiring in the U.S. slowed significantly in August. The Labor Department says employers added 22,000 jobs during the month, far fewer than were expected. NPR's Scott Horsley tells us the nation's jobless rate ticked higher to 4.3%.
For the second month in a row, the report shows U.S. employers added far fewer jobs than forecasters had expected. Factories and construction companies cut jobs last month, as did the federal government. Healthcare was one of the few industries to add jobs, and even there, hiring was slower than in previous months. Revised figures show a net loss of jobs in June for the first time since the depths of the pandemic in late 2020. The Federal Reserve has been keeping a close eye on the softening job market as it weighs a possible interest rate cut later this month. Investors widely expect the central bank to lower its benchmark rate by 1/4 percentage point. Scott Horsley, NPR News, Washington.
The South Korean government is expressing concern about an immigration enforcement raid at the site of a Hyundai electric car battery factory in the state of Georgia. 475 people were detained in the federal action. Homeland Security Special Agent Stephen Schrank.
We have also received many leads from community members, from prior workers. We have conducted many arrests through the immigration operations throughout the state of Georgia that have identified other employees that, when encountered, informed us that they worked there. We have interviewed folks, and we have developed evidence over the course of many months in support of the investigation.
The plant is part of a multi-billion-dollar package of South Korean investments in the U.S. in a deal announced in July. A day after a coalition of 35 nations came together in Paris to commit a peacekeeping force for Ukraine, Russian President Vladimir Putin has issued a warning. NPR's Eleanor Beardsley reports that Putin says any foreign troops in Ukraine would be a legitimate Russian target.
26 of the 35 nations that pledged support to Kyiv say they are willing to put troops on the ground and in the seas and skies of Ukraine to keep the peace once it's established. The U.S. is supposed to provide some sort of backstop to this mostly European security force. But given President Trump's reluctance to impose tariffs on Russia and his enduring affinity for Vladimir Putin, many wonder if he will commit support, says Martin Quincey with the German Marshall Fund of the United States.
The commitment of the president himself will depend on how he sees the evolution of the conflict, his exchanges with Vladimir Putin.
So far, Putin has rebuffed all of Trump's peace proposals and never wavers from his maximalist demands. Eleanor Beardsley, NPR News, Paris.
On Wall Street, the Dow down 268. This is NPR News.
Good afternoon. With the latest from the GBH newsroom, I'm Craig Lamolt. The Department of Justice filed a lawsuit against the city of Boston on Thursday, saying its sanctuary city policy violates federal law. The lawsuit cites Boston's Trust Act, which limits local police from enforcing federal immigration laws. Mayor Michelle Wu and Police Commissioner Michael Cox are also listed as defendants. Boston University law professor Sarah Sherman Stokes says the lawsuit is unconstitutional, but not a surprise from the Trump administration.
their desire is to cause chaos and force compliance under threat. And that seems to be exactly what they're trying to do here, to coerce the city of Boston to give up on the Trust Act, to give up on protecting immigrant communities.
Wu has long defended the Trust Act as fully compliant with the law. In a statement, she says the city will vigorously defend itself and its constitutional rights. A coalition of pro-Palestinian activists are launching a rotating hunger strike to bring attention to the famine in Gaza. A coalition is made up of several Boston-based groups, including Doctors Against Genocide, Jewish Voice for Peace, and Boston Healthcare Workers for Palestine. Dr. Miriam Kamarami is part of the hunger strike. She's planning to go without food for the next 7 days. She says they want to shine a light on the situation.
Hopefully focus people's gaze on the suffering in Gaza and the need to take action to stop our role in supporting the genocide and the forced starvation there.
International hunger monitors affiliated with the UN officially declared a famine in Gaza last month. This is GBH.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher is committed to helping clients stay on track to reach their financial goals and enjoy a comfortable retirement. FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Boston Public Radio. I'm Margery Egan. He's Jim Browdy, and we're joined today by our extra special guest co-host, Boston Pop's conductor, Keith Lockhart. We're so thrilled to have him here. We are broadcasting live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Welcome to a very special Boston Pops edition of Live Music Friday. Wow, you did that just for me?
We did.
Here with us to perform, vocalist, recording artist, diva, and utter delight, Jacyn Tremblay. She's performing with the Pops next Friday, September 12th, where she'll be singing some classics from the stage and screen. For information, you can go to bso.org. We'll talk to Jacyn in a moment, but first, here she is with pianist Ben Cook performing the Wizard of Oz classic, Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
That I've heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me, somewhere over the rainbow. Birds fly over the rainbow. happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I? Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow. Why, then oh, why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
Tremblay, come join us if you would. That was totally beautiful. Welcome, Jacyn.
Oh, that was fantastic. Thank you so
Thank
much for being
you.
here. Can you tell us about who your pianist is again?
I'm sorry?
The gentleman playing the piano.
Oh, Ben Cook.
Yeah, Ben
Cook, phenomenal.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ben.
Ben is our longtime principal keyboardist of the Boston Pops, and he does pretty much everything for us and does it very well. And Jacyn, hey, you're pretty good. We should have you with the Pops sometime.
You know what? I'm free next Friday.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Let's do this thing.
What is going on next Friday?
Well,
Do
next
tell.
Friday is a concert that's actually based on an album we put out at the Pops a few years ago called Oscar and Tony, which was all music from films that had either won Best Picture or Best Score, or shows that had won Best Tony Award for the Best Musical. And we came up with a wonderful list, and we've done that with some updating. And so everything from the classics, things like Ben-Hur and Lawrence of Arabia on one half, and of course, Over the Rainbow, which was, of course, from Wizard of Oz, another award-winning movie of that time, to the modern era, to Ennio Morricone, to some of his music from Hateful Eight, and music from Back to the Future. And Jacyn's also going to be joining us for Skyfall, the Adele song that won Best Song.
Yes. Wow. Yes. That's a lot.
It's it really should be a wonderful tour through about 75 years of great Broadway and Hollywood music.
It's your first Pops thing at Symphony Hall, is that not right?
Yes,
I mean, I know
yes,
you've worked
it
with
is.
Keith in the orchestra,
Yeah.
but what's that like? What's that feel like?
Oh my gosh. Well, I think first of all, I may have a heart attack before, but I'll get it together to get on stage and do my best and perform with these fantastic musicians and have an opportunity to basically fulfill a bucket list item.
Can we talk about that song for a second? I have always been, as a non-performer like this, I've always said, you got to be out of your mind to cover, let's say, a Beatles song. And there have been some exceptions. I'm even nervous saying this in front of you two. I mean, Joe Cocker did some great covers, and there were some other great covers. Judy Garland, I mean, that's one of the most legendary songs and the most legendary performances. Do you think about that when you decide, I'm going to sing that song that was sang so iconically by this megastar?
Well, all I can do is attach my own self and what it means to me to the song and hope that, you know, I pay homage in a way that people appreciate. But that song is so special to so many people, and to be able to perform it with the Pops is like one of the highest honors.
Is it true? I don't know if these kinds of stories are apocryphal or true. I read something that when you were a kid locally, you're watching July 4th on television because the family didn't like crowds. Is that what it was, or something like that?
Yeah, we just didn't feel like commuting into the city. I grew up on the North Shore, and they're like, we're not going to drive in there. There's too many people. And I'm like,
And what do you
well,
think of him then?
I was like, that looks pretty fun. How do I get into that? So, yeah.
You were a kid, and I was still up there on the podium.
Yes, you were.
That's my takeaway.
And you're a
from
big
that.
kid, because look at you. You're still doing it. You're still dancing around. You love it. It's great. Like, that's what it takes. It's a passion to be able to bring this kind of joy to people. We need it now more than ever. Music does that. It connects people.
That is huge and important point.
You know, I'm so glad you brought that up, because we talk about that a lot. We've talked about that with you, Keith, about how when there's some terrible tragedy that happens and you have a concert the next night, how you deal with that. And you just mentioned about how music matters.
So does.
Elaborate on that a little bit more.
Music matters. I mean, I feel like, you know, any time of problems or tragedy, as you said, like, we turn to things that bring us comfort, and music where you stand in politics and religion and world events, you can always connect through the arts. Look, we're in this beautiful library, there's murals on the wall, there's books, there's inspiration everywhere. Same thing with Symphony Hall and to all the beautiful theaters here in town. It's like that's where people find solace, is in these beautiful spaces with inspiring art to experience.
Can I say, I've said this before, both with Keith here and without Keith here. I went to a concert on the night of some horrible tragedy in this country, and I was 100% sure the Pops was going to cancel the concert. They didn't, and I got there, and I'm sitting there, and I'm saying, how's this guy going to handle this? And you said exactly in your own words what Jacyn said. Your buddy Andres Nelson says the same kinds of things. Add your voice to what Jacyn just said about the importance of arts and music in particular right now.
Well, the most important thing that the arts do is create community, bring people together. That's our primary product that we sell as performers. And having the chance, it is a little daunting sometimes to go out there with the things that are going on and contextualize them in a way that you can tell people why they should bother listening when things seem so dire. And then you realize that you really have to, because of the healing power of the arts, the power of the arts to create community, the power of the arts to exalt our emotions, the sad ones and the happy ones. And that's when you realize how lucky you are to be a performer. So, Jacyn, with all these things we have in common here, I mean, so you grew up on the North Shore. Your career took you elsewhere,
yes,
I believe, but you're recently back, right? Because otherwise, I think sometime in the last 30 years, I would have discovered you.
Well, it's interesting that you say that. No, I grew up in Danvers, Massachusetts. Quick Cliff Notes version. I went to Salem State College, was introduced to band and concert music, and grew up in the theater. Loved that. Once I graduated college, I became a pop singer, did a lot of pop work. I was in a group called Jada. We had a deal with Universal Motown. Yeah. I did that for like 10 years of my life. And then after that ended, I decided that I just wanted to come back to my roots, which was very much American songbook material, Broadway, and recently just started working on that again. I had the opportunity to sing with a few regional orchestras since 2017, and I'm very grateful for that, because that, through the breadcrumbs of life, led me to Mr. Lockhart here and the fantastic musicians of the Pops. So
By
I
the
just
way,
feel
we have
like
a little
it's full
sound
circle.
from Jada from 2011.
Oh, God, really? Yes, we
The
do.
song is American Cowboy. Here's a little piece. We're talking to Red as a Beat, Jacyn Tremblay. You mentioned a minute ago you were introduced to band and stuff. I think you said at Salem State.
Yeah.
When you're not doing what you do brilliantly here with the Pops, wherever else you're doing it, you work with Ernie Bach, and Ernie's a friend of ours. We don't like his presidential candidates. We love the work he does.
He does amazing work.
He does. Tell about the foundation, and you're obviously deeply involved in this hugely valuable, wonderful thing.
Yes, so I'm the program coordinator for Music Drives Us. It's New England's leading music foundation, and our goal is to keep music in schools, to keep musical instruments in the hands of kids and communities, and we work within all 6 states of New England. So our goal is to definitely make sure that those programs do not get cut, that we help keep the music alive, because that tends to be the first thing cut from school programs.
And Ernie,
we're like,
you,
no.
They give grants, they give actual instruments.
Yep.
And we've talked to him, and we've talked to some of the recipients through the years. Such a beautiful story, because as you say, the thing that makes an education full and rich, the arts, whether it's music, is often the first thing that schools decide to cut. So good for Ernie and good for you. It's
it's really fulfilling
it's a great program. Yeah.
You know, Jacyn, I was talking to Keith during the break, during the news about this. Stage fright, fear of forgetting things. You can weigh in on this too, because you have a lot of experience there. But I've always, when you don't have it, is we do the poem in front of us when Jim and I go to do the night before Christmas thing, which Keith just recited to me totally from memory. You have to have everything memorized, as you just did with the Over the Rainbow and all the other songs you sing. How do you deal with that fear of forgetting?
Well, you try not to forget.
I was going to say.
Firstly. And,
knowledge is a good way to deal with it.
Yeah, you just have to every song becomes part of you. That's how you don't forget it. You live with it, you listen to it ad nauseum, you just practice it over and over again. And you know how Spotify gives you that year-end wrap of like your favorite songs of the year? It's usually like the top 5 songs I had to learn for a gig. And I'm like, I actually don't like that song, but I had to listen to it 4,000 times to learn it. So it's just repetition and just remembering like, you got this.
Can I just read a couple? I want to read a couple of quick texts before he answers. This is in relation. The text, anonymous texter says to both of you, "I've never wanted to be at the library for one of your shows more than I do now. This has been amazing." An anonymous texter says, "This is really moving. Actually, it breaks me up. Bring back Keith without Jim. Fewer interruptions. Might actually hear Margery say something." Okay, thank you very much.
Very nice.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Thanks, Mom.
But you were talking about your years as a pianist when you were younger, and fear of forgetting when you have to memorize everything. I don't know if you've ever had professional musicians on the stage at Symphony Hall that forgot, but I bet you have.
Never. Your job as a professional is to acknowledge your own mistakes and fix them, and not have anybody in the audience know. And my job, if I'm accompanying a concerto soloist, for instance, and yes, it is difficult to learn a set of songs, but to learn the couple 100,000 notes in a Rachmaninoff concerto is huge, so it's my job as I'm a coordinator between the orchestra and the soloist to make sure that nobody in the audience knows that anything untoward happened.
And how do you do that? Do you
That's a trade secret.
Oh, it's a trade secret. Okay. Okay.
Jacyn, before you perform again, you'll tell us what it is, and it's how do other than next Friday night at the Pops, how do people find you?
Oh, just on Instagram right now, I'm at Jacyn the Girl, Jacyn the Girl.
Jacyn.
I like that very much.
What are you going to do?
I'm going to do Fascinating Rhythm. It's a Gershwin mashup between I've Got Rhythm and, well, it's Fascinating Rhythm.
There it goes.
And it's got a rap in it, and I've really, really worked hard on it. So
you remember it or you don't?
I do.
Okay, can you gently put your headset down? Tell us again while Jacyn is quietly putting her headset down. Okay. Walking back to the mic. Tell us again what next Friday night looks like there, Keith Lockhart.
Next Friday night at Symphony Hall. That is the 12th of September, 7:30 p.m. From Broadway to Hollywood. Award-winning music from stage and screen, featuring the fabulous Boston Pops, conducted by me, with our special guest, Jacyn Tremblay.
And here she is, Jacyn Tremblay.
Days may be sunny with never a sigh. Don't need what money can buy. Birds in the trees sing their day full of song. Why shouldn't we sing along? I'm chipper all the day, happy with my lot. How did I get that way? Look at what I've got. I've got rhythm, I've got music, I've got my man who could ask for anything more. I've got daisies in green pastures, I've got my man who could ask for anything more. Old man trouble, I don't mind him, you won't find him round my door. Fascinating rhythm, you got me on the go. Fascinating rhythm, I'm all a flivver. What a mess you're making, the neighbors want to know why I'm always shaking just like a flivver. Each morning I get up with the sun to find at night no work has been done. I know that once it didn't matter, but now you're doing wrong when you start to chatter. I'm so unhappy. Won't you take the day off, decide to run along somewhere far away off and make it snappy? Oh, how I long to be the girl I used to be. Fascinating rhythm, why don't you stop picking on me? Fascinating rhythm, the rhythm, the rhythm, the pitter-pats in my brain. So damn persistent, the day isn't distant, and it'll drive me insane. Comes in the morning without any warning, and hangs around all day. I'll have to sneak up to it someday and speak up to it. I hope it listens when I say, I've got starlight, I've got sweet dreams, I've got my man who could ask for anything more. I've got fascinating rhythm, fascinating rhythm, fascinating rhythm. Who could ask for anything more?
Tremblay. She'll be performing next Friday, September 12th at the Pops at Boston Symphony Hall. For more information, you can go to bso.org. Coming up after quick
Thanks
break.
to Ben Cook, too.
Coming up after quick break, Broadway's Mandy Gonzalez joins us over Zoom. I'm Margery Egan here with Jim Browdy and Boston Pops conductor Keith Lockhart. We'll be right back.
Two ships lost over a century ago have been found at the bottom of the Great Lakes. They're just two in a record number of shipwrecks that have been found in the region in recent years.
They sometimes have the most interesting and rich histories. Each one of these shipwrecks is really a time capsule.
I'm Ari Shapiro. Why more and more of these time capsules are being found nowadays on All Things Considered from NPR News.
Today at 4, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you and the Cape Cod Foundation, committed to building resources to support community life on Cape Cod, including environmental conservation, arts and culture, and community development. Learn more at capecodfoundation.org. And the MBTA Commuter Rail, helping riders skip the stress of city traffic and parking. Just take the train. You can plan your trip at mbta.com/massbytrain.
Welcome back to BPR. I'm special guest host Keith Lockhart here with regular hosts.
Let's hear it for Keith Lockhart. Come on.
Let's hear it for Jim Browdy and Margery Egan.
Oh, yes, let's do that too. That was rather tepid, but go ahead.
We're broadcasting live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. You may recognize our next guest here now via Zoom from roles on Broadway mega hits like Aida, In the Heights, or the mega hit Hamilton. Most recently, she guest starred as Norma Desmond in the Broadway revival of Sunset Boulevard. Or maybe you caught her at the Boston Pops fireworks spectacular from a few years back. Here's a little sound to jog your memory. Mandy Gonzalez singing Everything I Know in 2023 at the Hat Show.
Mandy Gonzalez. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead there.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
He's stepping on my lines.
I am there.
Mandy Gonzalez is coming back to perform with the Pops on Saturday the 20th for Everything I Know, a show celebrating the work of the great Lin-Manuel Miranda. Mandy, thanks for joining us today on BPR.
Great to have you, Mandy.
We are so happy.
Thank you.
We are so happy to talk with you and happy that you were able to give us the time. So elaborate a little bit on what Keith just said. What are you doing on the 20th with the Pops?
Well, I am doing a new show. It is called Everything I Know. Mandy Gonzalez, that's me.
Yeah.
Sings Lin-Manuel Miranda, and I am bringing the songbook of Lin-Manuel Miranda to the Boston Pops, to symphonies. And this idea really started with the Boston Pops when I did that July 4th performance, because it was the first time that a symphony had asked me to sing a song by Lin-Manuel Miranda. And I had so many people after that show come up to me to tell me how much that song meant to them, how much both songs that I sang meant to them. And I said, I think there's something here. I think there's an audience for this. I think that, people are ready to hear all of his music. And so the big question I had to ask was to him. And so I called him. He's my dear friend and he's like family, but I was nervous. And I said, I had an idea. And he said, yeah, I think that's really great. And, it was always my dream, the same way that I would listen to Barbara Cook sing Stephen Sondheim. It's one of my favorite albums, and it was always my dream to be that kind of representative for his music.
Keith, is Lin-Manuel Miranda, is he part of this thing on the 20th, or what's going on?
We hope that he may be part of it. We're not available to confirm or deny yet, but, come and find out.
So, Mandy, Margery and I had a bunch of years ago when the documentary was made about the unknown Lin-Manuel Miranda in Washington Heights. We had his college roommate on who made the film. We begged his college roommate for tickets. He yawned when we asked for tickets.
Yeah.
You know this guy well. I always worry that if I want to meet him badly, but then I say to myself, if he's not as great as he seems to be, I'm going to be so devastated. So in lieu of spending time with him, what kind of human being, we know what kind of talent he has, what kind of person is he?
Well, to me, he's like a brother. He is a person who makes you feel in that moment. Not that my brother does this, but a different kind of brother.
An ideal brother.
An ideal brother. But he is someone who makes you feel like you are the only person in the room when he's talking to you. He is such a light. And I tell you, if you met him in person, he absolutely doesn't disappoint, because when I first met him, I was in another show at the time on Broadway, and I got a call that said that there was a new writer, and he was Latino, and they were putting together a show with all Latinos, and would I go and meet him in the basement of the Drama Bookshop? Now, the Drama Bookshop's the place where everybody goes in New York to buy plays, because it pretty much has anything ever written. But I didn't even know there was a basement in the Drama Bookshop. And but for some reason, I said yes. And I walked down those basement steps. I opened the door, and there was Lin-Manuel. And he said, and I came in and I sang for him on a very old piano. And I remember that's when I got the first time that I played Nina Rosario. And then we did a reading, and that's where you sit around a table and read out a script. But nobody ever knows the music. So the first day is kind of like you're reading all the lyrics. You kind of are learning what the show's about. But the first day I remember him saying, now I know none of you know any of the lyrics, so I'm just going to sing all of them. And he just like looked at Alex Lackmore kind of like, yeah. And he started, and it was what's up from Washington Heights, and I was just like, what? Who is this? And how can I be a part of this forever? He just has this energy, this light, and I think you hear it. I know you hear it with his music. It is no surprise to me that he is world famous, that he's beloved by so many, because really that's just his spirit. That's what he brings. So he's truly one of the great.
Mandy, he actually wrote a song specifically for you, right?
He did, yeah.
Look at her.
And that,
Shucks.
Yes. That was another big ask, and I asked him to write a song for an album, and he said yes, and I'm going to call it Fearless. And then he asked me what Fearless meant to me, and I told him the story of my parents who met as pen pals during the Vietnam War. My dad was drafted at 19. My mom was 17 and wanted to join the Peace Corps, and her parents said no. So she did the next best thing, and she wrote to soldiers that didn't have anybody to write to them. And one of those soldiers was my father, and they fell in love. I know.
It's a great
and they
story.
fell in love. Thank you. They fell in love. They always say, like, it's interesting. I'm like, Mom. My mom has all the letters, like, in the hallway. And she told me, like, never to read them, but I'm the youngest of 3, and I'm incredibly nosy, so I've read all the letters. But I told Lin-Manuel about this story, and he was like, whoa. And then he wrote the song Fearless for me. And it gets to weave their story within that. And the story of, being fearless and being brave to follow your dreams.
Speaking of brave and speaking of your family,
yeah.
I'm pretty sure you're Mexican-American, are you not? You are,
I am.
right?
I'm Mexican-American and Jewish-American.
Whoa. What a combo.
Yeah,
And
I know.
I read
my parents met, like, random. It's such a... It really was meant to be.
I read you have farm workers in your family, and not knowing, we spend almost every day or every other day talking about what's happening to Latinas in this country, whether they're citizens or non-citizens or whatever it is. How does what's going on in the national front and in so many communities affecting you, considering the family from which you come, the community from which you come? What's this do to you?
This is my family. I am a proud daughter of, I'm a proud granddaughter of immigrants. My family grew up following the crop. They came here from Mexico during the Bracero program, and they went all the way through Washington. It was the first time they ever saw snow, and they had seen Mount Rushmore, and they called it Cuatro Cabezas, because they didn't know who it was or what it was. And then they settled in California, and they marched with Cesar Chavez. And
oh my goodness!
I'm very, very proud of them, and I think that this show is a testament to how far we have come, and how I am a part of that American dream that they came to this country for. Myself, and I know Lin-Manuel as well with his family, and what a time for this kind of show to be presented with the Boston Pops. I can't think of a way that I could be more proud to say that I'm here and I am a part of this country than to be doing this show with such incredible people. And the fact that Keith Lockhart said yes to do this show also, I think, is a very telling thing. And a very brave thing, because to see yourself represented on stage, I know for me how much that meant to me, and I know for people that have come to the symphony before that will be there, but also for the new people that are going to be coming to the symphony because they love Lin-Manuel from Hamilton, or they've seen In the Heights, or they love Encanto, or Vivo, or Moana. I think that is a moment that I would really take the stage and feel like this, I'm doing my part.
We're talking to Mandy Gonzalez, who I saw as Nina Rosario in the Heights, by the way, and she was totally brilliant. She's performing with the Pops on September 20th.
Thank you, by the way, and thank you for showing up at my anniversary party, Mandy, just a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, I wouldn't miss it. It was the best party ever.
I would perform anything on stage with you. You're great.
Did you perform with her on stage?
Yes,
did you perform with her?
She was just at the anniversary party at Tanglewood.
Yeah.
You've had a number of anniversary parties. Is
yes,
that correct? Yes, you have.
The Tanglewood one, the one that we're not lucky enough to have hosted by you.
Thank you very much.
Right,
Both of us, by the way, hosted an after party at the first 30th anniversary. So did you play with Mandy? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
What'd you do? Play piano? You sang? What'd you do?
No, I conducted.
Oh, sorry.
When I say I played,
okay, I know he's a conductor. Okay, fine. Can I bring up something else I love
about? Can we do
a
duet sometime, maybe?
With me?
Yeah.
Oh, I would love that, Keith.
Wait a minute.
I just saw you perform, and I was like, wait a minute.
You sing?
Plays the piano.
No, she sings.
Okay, she sings and you'd be accompanying on the piano.
Let me just say, when Keith Lockhart asked Mandy Gonzalez if they do a duet, Mandy took about 10 seconds to respond.
She did.
So I think we know exactly what the...
It's kind of like when I asked a guest host.
Exactly. Mandy, the other thing I was watching a lot of stuff of yours last night, and you did the most beautiful tribute for PBS, and everybody knows PBS and NPR just went through a federal savage defunding by the Trump administration. What'd you say, and why'd you do what you did on, I think it was your Instagram account. Why'd you do it?
Because PBS was so much a part of my childhood. I was a kid that definitely could not afford cable. We had 3 channels, and it was the kind of TV where you had to click it. You had to get up and turn it, and there were like 4 stations, and one of those stations was PBS. And I talk about this in my show, Everything I Know, but I talk about an album that meant a lot to me called Sesame Mucho, which was Sesame Street songs in English and in Spanish. And that song is like the background music to my childhood because it had, it had the Muppets, but it had Vicky Carr with 2 R's, who I absolutely loved. It had Jose Feliciano, but it had all of the characters from Sesame Street. And because my background, I do come from 2 cultures, that record, I felt like I was a part of both of those sides, And I felt like Sesame Street and all of those shows on PBS really spoke to me. So when I raised my daughter, I made sure that almost every day when we let her start watching television, that she would watch Sesame Street.
Well, it was beautiful, and thank you. It was great. It was really
Thank you.
Okay, we're talking to Mandy Gonzalez. You may recognize her from all these hits we've been talking about: Hamilton, Aida, and most recently you've been playing Norma Desmond in the Broadway revival of Sunset Boulevard, which is a totally different experience. How is that? People may remember that movie about the fading Hollywood star Norma Desmond, played by Gloria Swanson. Tell us about that.
Yes, I never dreamed that I would eventually play Norma Desmond, but sometimes you just never know what's coming in your way. When I was about, I guess when I was in middle school, I really lucked out because I went to a public school where they took us to go see shows for our field trip. And one of those shows was Sunset Boulevard with Glenn Close. And I remember falling in love with Andrew Lloyd Webber's music. I think the next year they took us to see Phantom of the Opera, and both shows just blew my mind. But when this opportunity came, and I met with the director, Jamie Lloyd, I don't know if you saw the production, but, the original production, these grand stage sets, and it's very much like the movie, the way that Gloria, that Norma is dressed. She's wearing the turban and the long, gown. But this was very stripped down, and the entire stage was black. And it's really about using the audience using their imagination, but it also incorporates film throughout, camera work and things like that, which is very intimidating and triggering for somebody in their 40s. When you have a huge camera coming at you, and then there's I don't know how big that screen was behind me, but there was a moment during rehearsal where I said to the director, I said, "Oh, well, that's really triggering because you can see everything's in HD and you can see everything." And he said, "We don't look at the camera. We don't look at the screen." And so I said, "Okay." So I just did that, and it was very freeing to just let go. And I think that it was definitely a big highlight for me creatively as an actress, and also as a vocalist. It's an incredible score, and I really felt like I got to go places I've never been before.
We're talking with Mandy Gonzalez again. I also wanted to ask you about your advocacy. You've been a big advocate for breast cancer. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2019. I went for my first mammogram. It does not run in my family. It was a complete shock. I was doing Hamilton on Broadway at the time, and I had the kind of cancer where I had to, have a lot of different things happen to me. I had a lumpectomy, and then I went to chemotherapy, and I also had to have radiation, the whole trifecta. And but during that time, I had told my doctor, I said, the biggest question I had was, can I sing? And he said, yes, you can sing. And so I kept going. I kept going with my shows and with the show, because I felt like cancer could be a part of my life, but it wasn't going to take all of my life. And going through that, being Latina, I had to go through a lot of different genetic testing on both of my sides. And I knew a lot about my medical history on my mother's side, but I didn't know anything about my father's side because nobody talked about it. And a lot of people didn't go to doctors. There was a big mistrust within the medical community, a language barrier. And so I wanted to be the one to say, hey, you matter. You have to go in, and you have to, these appointments are important. Sometimes as women, we think that, well, we take care of everybody else, but taking care of yourself is also taking care of everybody else, because cancer isn't a me disease, it's a we disease. It really affects everybody in your family. So that's when I started to use my voice in other ways.
Mandy, last thing from me is, how's Broadway doing? I know there have been, recent things I read, obviously there's some lows. The pandemic was a nightmare, like it was for virtually everybody. We talked to Keith a lot about that in his life. How is it today? How's its health? How's it doing?
Broadway, I can say, is definitely healthy and moving along. You know, I came back to do Hamilton right after the pandemic, and I'll never forget that first night and how excited everybody was. Everybody was wearing masks. You know, everybody had to get tested before they came in. It was so intense. But I really feel like people are still coming here to for that one moment where they get to see a Broadway show, because there's nothing like it. That's where everybody goes. And so I feel like there's new things opening all the time. I think there's new pieces opening. There's such exciting revivals happening, new directors, new writers. So I feel like it's bubbling, and I can't wait for this new season. There may be some surprises, but I can't talk about that yet.
Oh, that's too bad.
Oh, little hint there.
Do you know what the surprises are?
I know nothing.
I know nothing. We know you know what
they're definitely happening.
Yeah,
Okay.
he's so close to the vest.
Mandy,
Squirrely.
I'll text you later and you can tell me about the surprise.
Okay, sounds good.
Hey, Mandy, it was great to have you.
Yeah, thank
Big
you so
fans.
much.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
so much.
We have been speaking with Broadway's Mandy Gonzalez, who performs with Keith and the Boston Pops on Saturday, September 20th for Everything I Know, a show of music, as she just said, from the great Lin-Manuel Miranda. For tickets and info, go to bso.org. That's bso.org. Okay, coming up after this quick break, we're giving Keith a little time to breathe. I think you're spectacular at this, Keith, an absolute nerd. But instead of doing sort of two more things next, we might do a little talking with Keith and what's going on at the BSO and what's going on with him. I'm Margery Egan. He's Jim Browdy. Boston Pops conductor Keith Lockhart has joined us. You're listening to BPR on GBH 89.7 live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
This week on Under the Radar with Callie Crossley, she's been a comedian, a television host, and an actress, but her latest work is on the stage. The legendary Joy Behar reflects on life, love, marriage, and divorce in her new play based on real-life vignettes, My First Ex-Husband. That's Under the Radar with me, Callie Crossley, Sunday night at 6 here on 89.7 GBH and the GBH app.
Support for our programs comes from you.
And Arts Wayland, hosting songwriter Mark Arelli for a workshop entitled The Architecture of the Song, followed by a concert on Sunday afternoon, September 7th at 2. Learn more at artswayland.org. And MIT Sloan Executive Education, offering short courses on critical topics led by world-class faculty. Professionals can get up to speed on AI, innovation, cybersecurity, and operational strategy. More at executive.mit.edu.
Okay, put the headset on, Mr. Co-host Keith Lockhart. Go ahead.
Got it.
Go ahead.
Okay, welcome back to BPR. I'm special guest host Keith Lockhart, here with Jim Browdy and Margery Egan, special regular hosts. We're broadcasting live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Jim, Margery, there's about 10 minutes left on the clock for this hour?
11.
Okay, 11.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, boy. Before the news. So what exactly were we supposed to do with this leftover
You're
time?
returning to guest status. For 11 minutes,
Jim is
we're going to talk
ask
to
you
you.
lots of questions about being the conductor of the BS.
That wasn't in the
Pops, we
contract.
call it, yeah.
I know. Well, I get confused.
Give us.
Should I move to the guest position?
No, you shouldn't move at all. You're good right exactly where you are. What's coming up this fall with the Pops and you?
Well, we have a lot going on with the Pops this fall in September and October. It's something we've consciously done, actually, is move some of the traditional spring season, which was normally May, June, up to about the 4th of July, move some of it into other parts of the season so that basically we start having, along with, holiday Pops, we start having a 12-month visibility for the Pops as opposed to trying to ramp it up every spring. And then people forgetting about us after the 4th of July for a while. So this year we come back on September 11th with Cirque de la Symphony. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but it's an incredible show. We transformed Symphony Hall into the Big Top.
No.
It's amazing. It's it's not a hall that was designed for a lot of theatrical sort of things. It's a music concert space, but they do an amazing job of just really transforming it into a circus. And this is their the Cirque Rocks program. So the Boston Pops will be doing a little classic rock and roll along with amazing feats of acrobatics.
You mean people
on stage.
flying around
people
and that
flying
kind of thing?
over the top of
Oh
the
my
orchestra,
gosh.
people doing amazing things that you think, how are they ever letting that happen on the front of our set? First time I thought I was not a believer, but this is the fourth time they've been here. It's a great family show, a great, really entertaining way to introduce kids to the Boston Pops.
I've always wanted to see you on a trapeze. I can't wait. It's going to be great. It's going to be fabulous.
That's the special surprise that
I bet
Mandy
it
was
is.
talking about. Yes.
What else is coming up?
Then on the 12th, of course, as we said, we have our award-winning music from stage and screen, the Oscar and Tony program with Jacyn, whom you've heard earlier. On the 13th and 14th, we have one of my favorite movies. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed me.
Oh my God,
about it
Princess
yesterday.
Bride.
For the Princess Bride in concert for 3 shows. Or 2 shows, sorry about that. And then we will join forces with the Boston Symphony for our annual concert for the city on the 17th. And on the 20th, we will welcome Mandy Gonzalez to do the music of Lin-Manuel Miranda.
So you got to perform us 11th, 12th, 13th, and 4 nights in a row.
We are doing a lot. 4 nights in a row, and then 2 nights the next week, where things are cooking at Symphony Hall.
What are you talking about? What do you do, like 50 shows at Christmas time?
We do, but these are all different programs, too.
Yeah,
so
well, that's another point.
this is a lot busier time for us. Then, of course, we're going to be seen around Halloween weekend with our what started, I think, last year and is going to become a great new tradition, our Dia de Muertos concert, our Day of the Dead concert on November 1st, and some showings of Hocus Pocus, the movie performed
Explain to
live with
people
orchestra.
how you do that when you do movie segments at the Pops.
I can't explain it. I can barely do it. It's very interesting challenge for an orchestra to play a score live to a movie that's already been made, because that's not the way, as you might imagine, that they are recorded originally. They're recorded in little bits, and then editors put them together. But we reverse engineer it basically so that you really get an idea of the power and what music adds to a film that you don't normally get in editing when they move the music out, under every bit of dialogue. It's a really exciting way to see a film, especially if you're a film music buff.
Yeah, you have the actual screen right there, and in Symphony Hall.
Our huge high-def screen.
Yeah,
yes, we have.
It's great.
It's a great way to see a movie, and Hocus Pocus, of course, is a modern Halloween classic, and Princess Bride is just like one of the best things ever.
You doing anything away from the Pops in the fall?
I am. I'm working out my rusty piano skills and joining 6 of my closest musician friends. We are playing a chamber music cruise on the French-American Ponant line from Barcelona to Lisbon for a week in October. I know, pity me. Yeah, it's a terrible place to have to be. We're going to go right, through the Strait of Gibraltar. I mean, it should be absolutely fascinating experience. And I love doing that because it forces me back into making music as a performer. And I think that conductors sometimes suffer from spending too much time telling other people how to make music and not making it themselves.
How good are you? I know it's a hard job. How good are you, honestly?
I used to be pretty good. These days, with a little practice and a little bit of arthritis creeping in, I'm not as good as I used to be, but I've vowed to practice every day between now and the cruise leaving, and I've got about a month.
While we have you, we haven't had an opportunity to talk to you about something we talk about almost every couple of weeks. This Kennedy Center nightmare. What's your take on what's happened, the future, all those kinds of things?
Well, it's really interesting because, of course, obviously the whole story of what's going on at the Kennedy Center affects me. I haven't performed there a lot, but I have performed there. I did opera with National Opera in D.C. a few years ago, and I know a lot of the principals in the drama that's currently playing out. I was just on the same concert that Mandy joined me at. I was joined by Ben Folds, who's an old friend, and he was one of the creative advisors to the Kennedy Center. He resigned, and we talked about it briefly there, and he said, how can I ask one of my besties to perform in a place where they are so obviously trying to dismantle artistic freedom? it's complicated with the Kennedy Center because it's not just a performing arts venue. It says something about how we in the U.S. value culture, musical culture, theatrical culture, dance culture, and to see it become a political pawn is distressing. I'm really glad I don't work for them because I wouldn't want to be confronted with that choice about whether it was better to walk away than it was to continue to try to make the best art you can.
Well, we're going to confront you with that choice actually right now. We have had people who have performed.
Yep.
W. Kamau Bell was here. He chose to perform. I can't remember who. We had some musical performer who decided I think, didn't want to.
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Right.
Oh, that's right.
Hamilton is not going there.
Where do you fall in that question?
I think it would be very hard in good conscience for me to accept a gig in a place that is being used for so many purposes that I think are antithetical to what the arts are about.
Oh.
Yeah, it is
but
sad.
But after I just said that on the air, they're not going to ask me anyway.
So speaking of piano playing, I don't know if you remember this. A couple of years ago at a concert for the city, which I'd never been to, this woman walks out in a blue dress, and she plays Mozart, which as a lay consumer thought was unbelievably brilliant. She happened to be the mayor of Boston. And at a press conference afterwards, your colleague Andres Nelson's, you and Mayor Wu were there, and I turned at the press conference to Andres Nelson and said, so, who's a better piano player, Mayor Wu or Keith Lockhart? And he paused for like 15 seconds. What's the answer to the question?
I think, unlike me, Michelle still practices.
Yeah.
So.
Every day in her office, too.
Yeah, exactly. And I wish I could say that I had that much devotion to it. But for her, it's a release.
She was great, wasn't she?
She is. I mean, she's very brave. Because if you don't do that for a living, that is an extremely scary thing.
She told us she was terrified. Terrified.
Well, she handled it well.
She did.
Talk about that. I mean, you have to keep practicing because you lose your technique. So you have to practice your scales and arpeggios and all that for your whole life to keep going.
You sound like my teacher.
Exactly. Well, I had a teacher for a mother.
I am looking forward to getting back into it and really taking it seriously but boy, the first couple of days are just horrible. You start to play and nothing is even and your hands feel like canned hams. Basically.
But it's supposed to be good for arthritis, though. I've heard that.
The more you play, the more you're able to play.
Yeah, that's right. It's like
and
aerobics
is also true.
for your finger joints.
Before we go to the news, you're going to be on this cruise in exotic places. I am cruise averse. Could you explain to me?
It's a small boat, Jim.
How am I wrong?
Well, there's a couple of things. Number one, Marjorie's right. This boat is like 175 passengers. This is nothing like those mega cities. Okay. Very intimate. We've done. I did this once for the same cruise line with the same 6 companions before, and they said we can't give you 6 people because we can't give you that many staterooms. And I said, what if I get 3 married couples, or three groups of people who don't mind sleeping with each other? And they said, well, that'll work. And so I managed to put something together so I could have a lot of different configurations and they could only occupy the other 3 rooms. But also, I will never do a cruise as a passenger, I don't think. But going when you felt you had a purpose in this small sort of intimate thing where we really felt like we got to know pretty much everybody on board the ship.
Oh, that's a whole
it was a very different sort of thing. But I'm with you.
Is it all you can eat?
It is all you can eat, presented kind of like if a Michelin 2-star restaurant was all you can eat.
There you go.
Oh.
La-di-da. Jim, I think you should sign up.
I'm available.
Okay, we are out of time. The news is coming up at 1 o'clock, after which we're going to talk with Lemon Square aficionado, actor, and great writer. And now she's written a novel, Marianne Leone. She's written her wonderful book about, well, it's a novel, but we suspect a lot of it is might be her life as well. I'm Margery Egan here with Jim Browdy, Boston Pop's Conductor Keith Lockhart. You're listening to Boston Public Radio and GBH 89.7, live from the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
Moth, live at the Wilbur Theater, returns this October. Get your pair of tickets now to experience the storytelling phenomenon live. The sooner you give, the better your seats. Tickets and more info at gbh.org/moth.
Support for GBH comes from you.
And the Cape Playhouse in Dennis Village. Now playing the story of comedic legend Joan Rivers. Joan, through September 20th. Tickets at capeplayhouse.com. And Newbury Court, serving Concord, Massachusetts for 30 years as a not-for-profit continuing care retirement community dedicated to older adults. More at newburycourt.org.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Keith Lockhart. Ahead on Hour 3 of BPR, live from the Boston Public Library, we'll start with actor and author Marianne Leone at the library desk.
I'm Jim Browder. You know Marianne from a lot of things, including her brilliant work in The Sopranos or her many nonfiction books. Now she's written her first novel, Christina the Astonishing. We'll talk about writing, the Italian-American experience, and more.
I'm Margery, and then we'll open the phone and text lines on a topic near and dear to my heart, peanut butter. Particularly our New England favorite, Teddy's peanut butter. It takes so many forms: salted, unsalted, creamy, crunchy. Needs to be refrigerated or it does not. Peanut butter and you. Next on BPR and 89.7 GBH, live from the Boston Public Library.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Louise Schiavone. Employment figures for the month of August were weaker than expected. The Bureau of Labor Statistics reports that 22,000 jobs were added last month. The expectation was for more than 3 times that. Housing is one of the most significant financial pressures on families, and the state of Utah is reimagining the starter home. NPR's Jennifer Ludden reports.
The goal is 35,000 starter homes in 5 years, priced under $400,000. The aim is to help young people like Miranda Potiker.
We'd make jokes like, what was I doing in 3rd grade? I should have been buying a house instead of learning, multiplication.
After 2 years in her grandparents' basement saving up, she and her husband did buy a starter home from developer Jed Nielsen.
Yeah, maybe I'll make less money per home, but I'm going to fix a societal problem.
Builders get below-market loans, but land here's expensive, and 1 year in, the state's behind its goal. To give a boost, lawmakers have expanded the program to starter condos. Jennifer Ludden, NPR News, Plain City, Utah.
U.S. immigration officials say they have conducted their largest ever single-site raid at a Hyundai vehicle plant near Savannah, Georgia. Emily Jones of member station WABE has more.
475 people were arrested in the raid at a construction site for a battery plant. Homeland Security Special Agent in charge Steve Schrenk stressed that agents were executing a search warrant.
This has been a multi-month criminal investigation where we have developed evidence, conducted interviews, gathered documents, and presented that evidence to the court in order to obtain a judicial search warrant.
South Korea expressed concern and regret over the raid, which a spokesperson for the country's foreign ministry said included the detention of several South Korean nationals. U.S. officials announced no criminal charges, but said the investigation is ongoing. For NPR News, I'm Emily Jones in Savannah, Georgia.
The New York Times is reporting that in his first White House term, President Trump authorized a secret mission in North Korea in which Navy SEALs would plant a device to monitor Kim Jong-un's communications. New York Times correspondent David Phillips told NPR's Morning Edition that mission went awry.
They were expecting the shore to be empty. When they reached this area, instead they encountered a boat that started flashing lights down at the submarines. And the SEALs, who were on the shore watching this, didn't know what to do. And so they opened fire and killed everybody on the boat.
He reports that publicly North Korea has been silent about the episode. On Wall Street at this hour, the Dow Jones Industrial Average is down 244 points. The NASDAQ is off 55 points. This is NPR News in Washington.
Good afternoon with the latest from the GBH newsroom in Boston. I'm Craig Lamolt. Senator Elizabeth Warren went toe-to-toe with Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. at a Senate hearing yesterday. Warren confronted Kennedy about vaccine access, accusing him of breaking promises.
That was your promise.
I never promised that I was going to recommend products with which there is no indication.
When you said...
And I know you've taken $855,000 from pharmaceutical companies, Senator.
Did you hold up a big sign saying that you were lying when you said that? Because you are the one who said you would not take them away.
The hearing came as Governor Healey announced a series of steps yesterday aimed at making sure Massachusetts residents can get vaccines. Those include a directive to allow Massachusetts pharmacies to provide COVID shots to people ages 5 and up, and another to require insurance coverage for vaccines. Boston mayoral candidate Josh Kraft is parting ways with 2 top campaign strategists just days before next week's preliminary election. More from GBH's Adam Riley.
The split between Kraft and consultants Will Kaiser and Eileen O'Connor is being described as a mutual decision by the Kraft campaign. In a statement, the campaign says the 2 sides had, quote, strategic differences on how to proceed after the preliminary, which will winnow the field from 4 candidates to 2. Defeating an incumbent Boston mayor is notoriously difficult, and recent polling shows Mayor Michelle Wu leading Kraft by 30 percentage points. Kaiser and O'Connor's other clients have included former Governor Charlie Baker and current Senate President Karen Spilka. Adam Riley, GBH News.
This is GBH.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include BetterHelp, committed to supporting mental health through therapy and helping clients find balance. Clients are matched with one of 30,000 therapists for online therapy from anywhere at betterhelp.com/public.
Welcome to hour number 3 of Boston Public Radio. I'm Margery Egan. He's Jim Browder. We are joined by an extra special guest co-host today, Boston Pop's conductor Keith Lockhart. I want to read a little text here from John and Beverly, who says, we should add Keith to the show permanently and call it The Conductor, The Columnist, and The Dickie Show. That's our nickname for Jim, who had a fondness for Dickies in his youth. Very, very fashionable. And a little programming note here. We are going to talk about people's relationships with peanut butter at the last half hour because of the Teddy's peanut butter, my favorite.
It could be a sticky subject.
But I'm bummed, thank you.
Going national.
I'd be sorry you said that.
Okay. We are live at the Boston Public Library and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
And we're joined now at the BPL interview desk by author Marianne Leone. You may recall some of her powerful memoirs like 2010's Jessie, A Mother's Story, or last year's 5 Dog Epiphany. You may also remember her from her appearances on an obscure little-known show called HBO's The Sopranos as Christopher's mother.
Best show ever.
She's also a noted undercover agent for love. I really want to hear more about this. You'd get that reference if you read her new novel, the hilarious Christina the Astonishing, which was released earlier this week. Marianne Leone, welcome back to BPR.
Great to see you, Marianne.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are so thrilled to see you. Congratulations on this book. I mean, you so captured the teen years. You so captured growing up in a Catholic family. I did Irish root. You did the Italian root. But I loved one of your lines from earlier in the book when you said, Christina, that would be from The Astonishing, Christina the Astonishing. Christina is an aristocrat trapped in a family of plebeians who make pig pen sounds at dinner. That was just one of the many great lines you got in this book. So tell us what you were doing here.
Well, you know, I mean, it is autofiction in many ways because I drew a lot on the very colorful 12 years I spent in parochial school, 13 if you count kindergarten. And, you know, my parents were immigrants, and I guess they thought public school was free. How good could it be? You know?
Exactly.
And that's how I ended up in Catholic school, even though they actually never went to church, or my father golfed every Sunday, and my mother made pasta every Sunday. So I was torn because I knew she was sinning, but I wanted the pasta. So,
by the way, let me just say, and Margery knows this to be true, I almost never laugh out loud at anything.
So Ryan.
I laughed out loud lying in bed, sitting in a chair, reading at red light. This thing is so wildly funny and moving in spots. It's unbelievable. This is really an impossible task. Could you spend 30 seconds tell people just the outlines of the story?
Well, it's really a coming of age. So it's about being born into a place that you feel restricts you, but when you leave it, you realize was the source for everything you need to do. That this is where she learned storytelling. This is where she drew from when she follows acting as a career. So
it's just beautifully
told. You talk about growing up with these nuns who were very obsessed with the torture of the female nuns. Cutting tongues out, and roasting people live on the rotisseries and all this kind of stuff, and worrying about going to hell. So you had a very sin-obsessed, at least youth, until you began to question all this stuff.
Totally. I never slept again after the descriptions of, will you be able to defend your faith against the Chinese communists who ram bamboo shoots under your nails? And
That's right.
I thought, no, I really won't.
Yeah. But you also had, because you grew up in that part of Nantucket, part of Newton.
Yes.
So you had some great references to those of us who grew up in Boston at a certain age, like WMEX and Arnie Woo-Woo Ginsburg. And then going from the apartment where you lived and had kind of a rocky relationship sometimes with your mom and your grandpa. What did your grandpa do? What about at night, in the middle of the night?
Okay, well, my mother caught him urinating out the window onto the roof.
What's the problem?
And he
gotta go.
He persisted in doing this even though the bathroom was only 4 feet away.
Yeah.
So it was.
But I'm curious
It's
because you
marketing
were
territory.
Yes.
I'm sorry
important for men.
I'm sorry I'm asking all the questions, but I think it was very interesting because you grew up in Nantucket, I grew up in Fall River, and so you had kind of a tough crowd there, and I had kind of a tough crowd too. Where you weren't supposed to be smart, and you were supposed to just get married immediately. So, but midway, I don't know, 13 or 14, you began going off to Harvard Square. So how did this happen that you got into this other world of books and Allen Ginsberg and all that?
Because I was a voracious reader.
Yeah.
And, after I went through the local library, which was at the end of my street, and after I did that, I clued into the fact that the Pilot, the Catholic newspaper, showed what books were forbidden what films were forbidden.
That's right.
And I realized that the trolley would take me to Harvard Square, and a whole new world opened up.
That's right.
I read Baldwin and was like, wow, men can love men. That's amazing. These were all things I did not know at 14.
But, it wasn't just a book. I mean, the first person who told us that Club 47 changed his life was Tom Rush, who was an undergraduate, I think English major at Harvard. And I think he went there to listen before, as a young kid, he started performing. Then obviously came back. And now it's Passim, sort of, another sort of a thing. What Club 47 do for you?
Oh, I mean, Joan Baez, and it's what I learned about, how to protest wars and how to stand up for civil rights through these people, through their music, through all of that.
You know what was very upsetting to me yesterday, since this is we ordinarily don't do fiction, but not only do we love Marianne Leone, but it's pretty much autobiographical. As you said, I was so depressed. I'm listening to you talking to Jared yesterday on the air. My favorite character, and it's hard to say who, my favorite character in the book is Babe.
And she's totally fiction.
But what's that about? I mean, is she a composite?
She's someone I wish I had known.
Describe who Babe is.
Christina meets Babe when she is dragooned into... they were all dragooned into performing for the elderly blind at this place nearby. And when she gets there, the floor is carpeted, which could be a metaphor for my career.
Supposed to tap dance. Did you say that?
She's tap dancing.
The carpeted floor.
Yes, sorry, she's tap dancing.
You left out the punchline there.
Yes. And so afterwards she meets Babe, and Babe tells her to, she says, I'm here doing good deeds. And Babe says, you want to do a good deed? Take me to my room. And then she tells her to get the cigarettes that are hidden away in her room, and they both smoke a cigarette together. And Babe feels like she is in the company of this incredible woodland creature that she's discovered. And Babe is a mentor in a weird way through her whole life after that.
Why'd you decide to create her?
Because I wanted someone to be an incentive or a door to the outside world, or somebody who basically let her know that she could go there.
Is she a former exotic dancer, as you know?
Yeah, she's an exotic dancer at the Old Howard.
Yeah.
Former.
Yeah, she and her friend Twirly Shirley.
Twirly Shirley.
I love that. That was great.
Yeah.
And I love, the fact that your parents are very concerned that, you come home on Sunday for Sunday dinner and stay close to home and all that. But when you did begin to make it as an actor, tell us about the first play. I shouldn't say you. Christina the Astonishing. The first play that Christina the Astonishing has her family come to. What was going on in that play?
Well, it's this really bizarre play by Ramon de Valle-Inclán, because we have this kind of pretentious theater professor, and she plays the aunt of a hydrocephalic, as it's said, idiot, and it's her friend in a giant rubber head, and he ends up being eaten by pigs. And her entrance is screaming, eaten by pigs.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
And then they had a guy masturbating on the stage.
Yes, that's right. He's masturbating.
You left that one out.
Appreciate that.
And
you can read that in
Can
the
you
book.
say that? Oh.
I did. No. I already did.
Well,
and the naked woman, she wasn't really naked?
She wasn't really naked because our professor freaked out at the last minute. I guess he was worried about his tenure. So she wore this bodysuit and ended up looking kind of like a knockwurst.
Love knockwurst. But instead of talking, can you read? Do you mind reading a piece of this thing?
I don't.
Oh, great.
I timed this. It's about 3 minutes. So
Okay,
we're ready.
By the way, the book is Christina the Astonishing, which is sort of an autobiographical piece of fiction by Marianne Leone, and it is spectacular. Take it away, Marianne.
I want to preface this with saying Christina is, like the rest of her classes, dragooned into seeing The Sound of Music at a big theater downtown. And she hears this guy laughing insanely, and she's like, why is he laughing? And she tries to see him, and he leans forward and says, "Good morning, little schoolgirl." And she runs off, but she's very intrigued by this guy, and she ends up meeting him and having, he's having Chinese food, and she tells him her life story, and he signs her Rambode book. She tells him about the priest telling her she needs to have a swingin' good time at the CYO dance, and he writes, "For a swingin' good time, contact RT." So she is dying to see this guy again because he is this creature outside of her norm. So she hasn't dared to call him all summer. So this is the call. Her mother is watching The Edge of Night when she gets home. A pile of naked dolls lies beside her in a heap on the sofa like victims of a genocide in Toyland. Rita is crocheting toilet roll covers, her new side business. Offending bare toilet rolls are covered by pastel crocheted yarn that become the full skirts of dolls plunked down in the middle of the rolls. The finished toilet roll dolls wear a hat that matches their skirts. They are hideous, and people are buying them like crazy. Her mother holds up her hand, her eyes still on the screen, and gurgles her irritation, a nonverbal warning to back off. Christina stomps up the stairs to her room. Vinny, her brother, is nowhere around. Good, she'll have an iota of privacy for once. She grabs her diary and takes it into the bathroom, which has the only door in the house with an actual lock. She pulls the heavy black hall phone into the bathroom with her, checks the number in her diary, and sits on the pink toilet seat cover. She stares at the matching pink crocheted doll in the middle of the shelf opposite the toilet. The doll has black hair and a superior blank gaze, as if Christina can't possibly understand that the doll is a work of household art. Christina begins to dial, the whirring sound of each circular finger sprocket calming her a little. He answers on the second ring. "Is this RT?" she asks. She sounds like some breathless Beatles fan, she thinks, her voice high-pitched and girly. "I met you last May at the Sound of Music, remember?" She inhales sharply. After a moment of suspense, RT responds, "The little schoolgirl. How could I forget? You are forever etched in my memory. The quaintness of your native costume, your knee socks." Christina listens to his low, somewhat nasal voice with gushing relief. She giggles and remembers to exhale. "You wrote something in my Rambode book, do you remember? You wrote for a swingin'..." The phone clicks and a rough voice intrudes. "Who's that?" Her mother grunts. Christina has been a fool to think that a mere locked bathroom door could prevent Rita from crashing into her world like a random asteroid obliterating all forms of sentient life. "I'm on the phone," she screams. "Mother, please hang up," she then says in a lower voice, impersonating people from families she has read about, polite families who don't barge in rudely on other people's conversations like cops busting a dope dealer. The phone clicks again. RT laughs. Christina stares with venom at the doll. She grabs it and turns on the faucet, holding the doll's head under the flow. Then she sets it back on her toilet roll perch, its blank eyes now obscured by the soggy hat drooping over its face. "I'm having a party tomorrow night," RT is saying. "You could be my hostess. We'll be the lord and lady of the manor." Christina nearly forgets to breathe again, but remembers to write down the address. She is going to a party in Cambridge with people who go to Harvard. She will hold this secret inside her all day tomorrow, ignoring her friends' endless bragfests about boyfriends and cars and the Harvest CYO dance, and she will be the secret lady of the manor.
That's great. Great. Christina the Astonishing.
Yeah, I love when you go to the Harvard Coop and you see those Harvard girls in their Pendleton sweaters. What'd you think about them?
Oh, I know. Her character just wants to knock them aside and push their, so that their books fall on the floor. And she can say, "What are you looking at, girlie?" Like the tough girls in her neighborhood. But she is not a tough girl. She is a little schoolgirl.
I keep saying it's you. I know it's a novel. I'm sorry. I keep saying
you-ish.
It's you-ish. It's you-ish. That's right. That's right.
Hey, Marianne Leone, we do a segment on the show. I just thought of this as I'm looking at you and Keith talking to each other before. How do you two know each other? And in normal circumstances, we'd have you on with Chris Cooper, who's with us last week, who you happen to be married to, who is in this brilliant new movie that is opening next week, am I right?
The 19th.
History of Sound on the 19th. And Ben Shattuck wrote it, who was also with us. How do you two know each other?
Well, Chris was doing the vocals, right?
You know the portrait of the Kennedy brothers piece we commissioned?
Yeah, I do, yeah.
Which, after the premiere, which was with De Niro and Morgan Freeman and Ed Harris, we started doing it with a single, and our very first narrator was Chris Cooper. And so we met during that, but she was also reminding me of getting an honorary degree together at UMass Lowell.
Oh,
together?
Yeah. Oh, congratulations.
Well, we got individual, we each got our own.
I understand that. You didn't have to share one. I understood that.
Yeah.
Keith, thank you. Is that accurate?
It's totally accurate, except what I remember more than meeting Keith was the fact that Vicki Kennedy came up to us after the
Ted Kennedy's wife
event, yes, and said, "We're having a barbecue at our house, and we'd love you to come." And we walk away, and my extremely shy husband says to me, "We're not going, are we?" And I was like, "Are you on crack? We're going."
Of course.
So
how was it?
It was really great. I mean, we were sitting at this table that I thought, wow, JFK sat at this table, The food was Irish American, so.
Yeah. Which house was it at, though? Which house?
I think it was their regular.
It was the house that Ted and Vicki had.
In the Cape, you mean?
Yeah, in
yes.
Hyannis.
In Hyannisport, right.
Very nice.
It was the compound.
Yeah.
La-di-da. Beautiful down there.
So one last thing about the book before we talked about other things. You're starting a tour of a ton of places. Wednesday, September 10th is the first one, I think, at the Great Porter Square Books, in conversation with Chris Cooper.
Well, he's reading the male voices. It's not really in conversation.
Is that what you're doing?
Yeah.
Oh, that's fabulous.
Yeah, because we did this before once at the
that
Barn.
is great.
And he was hilarious. He read the grandfather voice, and he kept saying, "It's all right."
Yeah, that was great, too, when you had the grandfather saying that, everybody screaming and yelling, it's all right.
Is there a website that has all the dates for this thing?
Yes, my website is MarianneLeoneCooper.com, because there's another Marianne Leone who spells her name exactly like
MarianneLeoneCooper.com to find out a whole bunch of things in the greater Boston area, and I would go if I were you.
Now, one more thing I just want to mention, because you talked about Anna Quinlan, who used to write a column for the New York Times, and she's written a lot of novels too, talked about how you could distinguish where girls were headed based on which Beatle they liked. Now, I was one of those shallow girls, very
Paul.
shallow. I was a Paul girl, but you were not.
John.
You were
He was
John.
an author.
That's right, and you were more of an intellectual. If you're a little odd, you like George. Nobody really liked Ringo.
Oh, that's not nice. That's really not nice.
Well, usually he wasn't at the top of the list,
Right.
but I thought that was so true. I was a very shallow child. I'm trying to work on it now as I get into my senility.
You know, I'm always nervous to bring this up with you because my favorite singer of all time is Joni Mitchell. And there was one of her albums, someone yells out, "Can you sing?" It happens to be my favorite song, "In Case of You." And her response to the audience member is, "Did anyone ask Van Gogh to paint A Starry Night a second time?" So whenever I'm about to ask you about The Sopranos, I can't even make eye contact.
That's okay.
It says, I watched the whole thing again the whole thing again while I was on vacation, and it was unbelievable. Why? And I look at every single list that comes up, and The Wire, Sopranos, The Wire, occasionally Breaking Bad, but it's always one of the top 3 shows ever. And a lot of things don't hold up at all. This holds up like it could have been on Sunday nights, this Sunday night, and been. Why?
I maintain it's because of the humor. I really believe if you blend humor.
She was Christopher's mother, by the way, for the few who haven't seen it. I'm sorry, I should have said that. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think humor blended with it makes it more real to me. I mean, like right now, look at us. I mean, we're like, my husband and I at the end of the night are like, oh my God, we've been watching news. And I made it a rule to laugh before we go to bed so we can sleep.
Do you really, is that serious? Or is
seriously,
that
no, seriously.
Okay, how do you do that, going from the news to
I either watch Colbert or South Park.
Okay. Yeah, because it does get you very upsetting.
Yeah.
You know, speaking of your husband, you did a great book called The 5 Dog Epiphany that we talked to you when that came out. Tell us what that was about.
Well, it was about, we adopted these rescue dogs after we lost our son. And I called ourselves PTSD mirrors, looking at these dogs. A lot of these dogs have been abused, and it was like bringing them back from the abuse to being dogs. And it was a really beautiful on both sides for us to do this, you know. And so we got this one dog. We had these dogs. Our latest are TT and Sugar. They sound like exotic dancers. They're from Louisiana. And TT was really abused. She was kept in a cage. She gave up one litter after another, and so neglected that the harness grew into her flesh. And she was a fear biter. And she did draw blood from my husband the first day, but then she fell madly in love with her. And if he even looked at her, she was Marilyn Monroe and Some Like It Hot.
So this is a hard transition. Can the camera get on me? I mean, can we get a camera on me for a second? I'll wait a second. Okay, thank you. What am I holding? Excuse me. What am I holding, Marianne Leone?
You're holding your bribe lemon squares.
Right, about 100 of them. Anonymous texter, please, please, please ask Marianne Leone for her recipe for lemon squares, or at least the name of the cookbook it's from. She once said it's from a cookbook her sister-in-law gave her. Nothing like a great lemon square, and I will add nothing like these lemon squares.
They're great.
Thank you. So, by the way, they are, and I feel bad saying this because you're not getting any, but they are spectacular. What's the recipe?
They're from the Savannah cookbook, and the reason they're so good is they're very high in fat and sugar. I mean, that's what tastes good.
Thank you.
That's it.
They are really, and they're spectacular.
It's from my.
Do you eat them or do you not eat them?
Not so much, but it's from my stress baking. My agent gave me a shirt that said, "Baking because murder is wrong."
So are you going to embark on a career now as a novelist? Because this was a riot.
I am going to do a novel.
This could be a movie.
I'm going to do it. Actually, I've written it as a pilot, and it has a producer attached.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, Dotto Fiero, who did The Fighter, and
cool.
You know, so we'll see. She'll pitch it. You know, we'll see how it does.
Well, it's congratulations, and I ever wonder what happened to some of these kids. I mean, they weren't real. What was the kid? Dennis? What was his name? The kid you had the crush on?
Oh yeah, Dennis
Dempsey.
Was he
a real person?
Kind of based on. Some of them were blends, you know what I mean? And my girlfriends, who I dedicated this to, we still meet. We've known each other since kindergarten.
That's great.
You know, and we still meet every year for lunch. And, you know, they're great girls, and they knew my mom, and I knew their mothers. And, you know, it's just, there's something soul satisfying about being with people.
And nobody became a nun?
Nobody became a nun. And basically, they were smart. They didn't take it seriously. They were like, we don't know why you took it so seriously. And I did. I believed everything.
Wow. So it was a tortured childhood if you believed everything. You were always on the verge of hellfire.
That's true.
What's that,
constantly.
My point of connection is still, just warm memories about crocheted toilet roll covers.
Yes.
I was definitely in that household.
Yeah. I've seen them too. They're really
seen
great.
them?
I've seen them.
My mom made them.
Your mother
and her
made
mother
them?
before her.
Oh my
yes.
God. Wow.
Yes, and sold them at the church Christmas bazaar.
There you go.
There you go.
Were you worried about hellfire too?
No, I was Protestant.
Okay. You were Protestant. Okay. Well, we're thrilled to have
Best
you here,
Squares,
Marianne.
best book. Marianne, it's great.
Thank you so much.
It's
You're
just
great. Thank
it's
you.
a great book. It's a real page turner, as they say, very funny.
Thank you.
I think a lot of people can relate to it. You wonderfully capture the adolescence of a lot of girls and boys. We've been speaking with actor and author Marianne Leone. Her novel, Christina the Astonishing, is now out. She has a number of book events coming up, including Wednesday, September 10th at Porter Square Books. Go to MarianneLeoneCooper.com for more. That's Marianne Leone Cooper, all one word. Thank you so much. After a quick break.
Great to see you, Marianne.
Okay, we're going to talk about peanut butter. What's that stuck in the roof of your mouth? Phone and text lines are open. Peanut butter and you. I'm Margery Egan, he's Jim Browdy. Boston Pop's conductor Keith Lockhart is here with us. You are listening to Boston Public Radio, GBH 89.7, live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News.
I'm Arun Roth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, former Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson is being sentenced on federal corruption charges. The MBTA is offering free evening fares this weekend to promote its new late-night service, and 2 shipwrecks more than a century old have been discovered at the bottom of Lake Huron and Lake Michigan. They're just part of the mystery beneath the Great Lakes. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
The Moth, live at the Wilbur Theater in Boston, returns this October, and GBH has your pair of tickets. Experience the storytelling phenomenon that proves time and again the power of sharing real experiences to inspire, entertain, and unify. For a limited time, support your GBH listening and secure your pair of tickets to see The Moth live. The sooner you give, the better your seats. For tickets and more information, visit gbh.org/moth.
I'm Boston Pop's conductor Keith Lockhart, here with Jim Browdy and Margery Egan. We're broadcasting live from the BPL and streaming at youtube.com/GBH News. Finally today, we're celebrating what may be the greatest American invention ever. Not the light bulb. Something better than the Wright brothers airplane, Edison's little light bulb, even better than the drive-through window. Yes, George Washington Carver's alleged invention, peanut butter. We're inspired by Everett-based Teddy Natural Peanut Butter, turning 100 years old this year. Woo! You know them from that cute little bear logo, their simple natural ingredients, or those nice glass jars you may have seen holding Margery's morning mush.
That's right.
By the way, the only peanut butter that ever enters the Lockhart household.
Wow.
Teddy's? I'm with you.
Yes, 877-301-8970. It's all things peanut butter and you. Crunchy or smooth, Skippy, Jif, Reese's, Peter Pan, or yes, Teddy's. How do you like your peanut butter peanutted? And if peanut butter isn't your thing, tell us what is, though please don't try to sell us on almond butter or that Australian garbage, whatever,
exactly. No one can
or
pronounce
whatever.
Whatever
Anyway,
it is.
877-301-8970.
You're a huge Teddy's
I'm a
person,
Teddy.
too.
I'm absolutely Teddy's. And I like salt on things, but I like the unsalted Teddy's. Smooth, creamy, salted or unsalted. It's fine. It's my favorite food, as Jim knows. Probably 3 days a week I eat a peanut butter.
Smooth with salt for us.
Smooth with salt. Okay, it's delicious though. So why is it your favorite?
Because it tastes like peanuts.
It does. And you don't have
so why
to.
don't you eat a peanut?
After you because they don't spread well on toast.
Okay, it's a good answer.
And you don't have to refrigerate it.
You don't. It's shelf stable because it doesn't have any extra stuff in it. If you look at the ingredients these days, everybody's so worried about ultra processed foods. It's got peanuts and salt in
That's
it.
That's it. And I used to eat Skippy when I was a kid, and then I discovered these all natural peanut butters, and they leave all the regular ones like Skippy in the dust.
Right. Well, but Teddy's leaves all of them in the dust.
It does.
Smetty's, Smucker's, no comparison.
There's no comparison.
And by the way, why don't you admit, which is rather disgusting, you eat it with a spoon out of the jar.
I do.
I mean, what do you think of that?
But
Be
one of my
honest.
favorite things is a banana. You take out a banana, you mash the banana, you mash the peanut butter into the banana.
That may be a bit much, but I'm not going to
Try it.
I've done the spoon thing.
Yeah, you've done the spoon thing. Who doesn't? When you're hungry, you have a spoonful of peanut butter, it satiates you right away.
There are many worse things you could be eating.
Exactly. It's very good for you, too. It's not bad for you, I don't think. Is it peanut butter?
No, I don't think so.
Well, it's got calories, but it's healthy-ish, right?
Yeah, because
healthy
of oil.
calories, good source of protein.
That's right.
And, I love the story of Teddy's the company, too.
What is the story? I don't know. What is the story?
Well, this I knew. Actually, it's funny. You'd think I did lots and lots of homework for this, but I didn't know about the Teddy's segment till I showed up today. And the first thing I said was, well, the story of them. Everett-based company, I believe during the Depression, switched over from being a confectionery manufacturer, realizing that people who were financially challenged needed a source of protein.
Right.
And they changed to making peanut butter at that point, and they have done so ever since. At least that was my understanding from a few years ago.
And they've gone national because so many people that lived here and moved elsewhere couldn't get Teddy's elsewhere, and so now they're going to go national. They're going to be in places like Whole Foods all around the country,
Couldn't you get the CEO of Teddy's to appear on the program today?
We should get the CEO of
We
Teddy's.
chose you instead. Can I read? By the way, we have
You're
our numbers
lost, man. You're lost.
I don't think so. 877-301-8997. We are deluged with with texts or whatever they are. Janet and Ashland, just read a few for now. Peanut butter and toilet paper are the two things we are never allowed to run out of in our house. That's lovely. Karen in Manchester. Notice people are signing their texts on this one. A friend of mine grew up with the man who started Teddy Peanut Butter. I met him once and was like a crazy fangirl, telling him how much I loved the consistency, how easy it was to stir. He said it took a long time to get it right. Here's just one more for now. This is anonymous. Yes, I'm sitting here eating my peanut butter and jelly sandwich for lunch. I have one every day. I'm on the road and I can keep it without needing a cooler. It is the perfect food. Margery, I share your passion.
One of our engineers, Maddie, just wrote an entire thing
Not just wrote. She worked for years.
She worked for years on this.
Explain what this is.
It's her decade of research on Reese's peanut butter cups, which are not made with Teddy's, unfortunately, but they are my favorite candy, of course, because they're peanut butter and chocolate. And she has all these explainers about what you get in the candy cane miniatures, the mystery Xmas-shaped boots, the Valentine's
It's rather
cards.
sad, don't you think?
No, I think it's a worthy endeavor.
It looks like a PhD thesis.
It does,
It
actually.
looks like a PhD
on
thesis
Reese's.
on Reese's peanut butter cups. Okay, let's take some calls. 877-301-8970. Where does peanut butter, fit into your life?
Peter peanut butter.
Yeah, Peter peanut butter.
And Teddy's in particular. We're celebrating a local 100th
We are.
anniversary. Chad in Pennsylvania, what's up?
Hey, Jim, Margery, and Keith today. Love your show.
Thank you.
We consume a lot of peanut butter in my house. I have a 6-year-old. Him and my wife do peanut butter and their oatmeal every morning. We do peanut butter and jelly. When we moved from north of Boston, originally to Philadelphia, one of the saddest parts of our move was that we could no longer get Teddy peanut butter. And it wasn't until we moved to Lancaster last year that we were able to find Teddy again at Wegmans,
Yes.
and which was so incredibly exciting to us. And I'm so excited to hear that it's going national and everyone can experience the joy of Teddy. There is no other comparable peanut butter.
Can you describe the minute you looked at the shelf at Wegmans and you saw Teddy sitting there? Describe the feeling, Chad, of that moment.
Literally, it was one of our first shopping trips. We had simultaneous audible gasps of joy.
That is a beautiful, beautiful tribute on the 100th anniversary. Chad, thanks for calling. We appreciate it.
You see Hannah's note?
No?
Yes, Hannah is one of our staff. She says she buys 36-ounce 2-packs of Teddy's at Costco. The only way to keep up with her peanut butter consumption, only downside is it does not come in glass. I will tell you, Hannah, I buy it at Whole Foods, and it's in glass at Whole Foods.
Is this Teddy's is the one that has the oil at
Green
the top?
Yes.
And what do you do with that?
You keep it upside down.
And then you stir it.
And that's it?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You got to really try it, Jim.
I've tried it. I like it. By the way, I'm not an anti-peanut butter. I don't like it like you two like it. I like it. I don't love it.
Well, what brand is better in your estimation? can't think of one.
You don't have to attack me. I mean, I don't like peanut butter as much as.
We want answers, Browdy.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, somebody just texted a minute ago, and everybody thinks it's Jamie. Careful, Jim. I wouldn't criticize Margery for something she eats. You're the clown that eats liverwurst, hot dogs, and whatever other slop you enjoy. If I had a choice, I'd squeeze a little liverwurst in my mouth.
Keith may not know that every Christmas I get Jim a variation of it's either salami of the month, or sausage of the month,
or bacon of the month,
or bacon of
or
the month,
liverwurst of the year.
If there was, she would.
Yeah, if there were Teddy's of liverwurst, Jim,
were you involved
more
in that big food poisoning thing that involved liverwurst
Do you like
a few
liverwurst?
months ago? You remember?
Hey, do you like liverwurst?
No, I love foie gras though.
Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. Patrice should have known.
Listen,
Patrice in New Hampshire.
He's conductor of the Boston
I know
Pops.
who he is. By the way, we didn't say, before you go on, Patrice, when we were doing that interview before,
behind me.
You know what we didn't mention enough? We've only mentioned passing. This is the 30th anniversary. We were lucky enough to do the
30th
sort
anniversary.
of post first 30th anniversary party, but it is huge, and we should have said congratulations and how lucky this community is to have you, Keith Lockhart.
And you guys were so wonderful.
Well, thanks.
You were wonderful hosts, and just thanks for your friendip for all
Well,
these
there's
years.
nothing like it. There's nothing like it going to an evening of the Pops, whether it's the Broadway shows, whether it's
so
the
much
Christmas
fun.
thing, whether it's the 4th of July. I mean, everybody's so talented, and it's just you're just so.
I get to work with a lot of really cool people.
You really do. You really do.
In any case, I interrupted. I'm sorry, Patrice from New Hampshire. I think we're happy to have you. I haven't heard you yet, but hello.
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 How are you? Hello.
I think we're good. Go ahead.
I like Keith too. He's great.
He's all right. Yeah, he's fine.
I want.
Good.
That's great. I wanted to call about peanut butter because it's my favorite food of all kinds.
Yeah.
I have it for breakfast every morning on sprouted wheat bread with berries on top.
Ooh.
But I used to buy Teddy's, but when it got expensive, I'm too cheap for that. So now I make my own, and I found out how easy it was.
Wow.
With roasted peanuts from Aldi's for $2.19 a jar. You pour the jar of unsalted peanuts in the food processor with some salt, and you whir it up. Walk away because it's loud. And then you have peanut butter, and it's cheap.
You know, when you, by the way,
and
can I say, I don't eat peanut butter a lot, but I do buy Teddy's. At Market Basket, it's pretty cheap. You should check it out. And by the way, do you ever go to Whole Foods? If you go to Whole Foods, you can press a button and you see the peanut butter coming out of the little mixer thing. And it's beautiful, actually. It's almost like an orgasmic.
But it's not Teddy's.
It's not Teddy's. That's great.
I find that a little sus, as the kids say.
877-301-8970. Here's another disgusting food that's local that everybody loves. Look, I didn't mean Teddy's disgusting. This is the thing. Luke and Auburn, Jim, Margery, and Maestro. That would be you. Nothing better than a fluffernutter made with Somerville's, originally Somerville. I think it's in Lynn now. Fluff and Everett's Teddy. That said, I do love Jif with saltines or Ritz crackers. Are you a fluffernutter fan too?
If you enjoy your fluff and peanut butter, you're glad you had enough for another fluffernutter.
Okay, thank you very much.
Very good.
So I think the answer is yes.
Commercials of my youth.
I had for 3 years in junior high school, I had a fluffernutter sandwich on sunbeam bread every single solitary day. Sunbeam bread with Twinkies for dessert.
It's amazing you came out as well as you did.
It's amazing.
How about the stuff that has the jelly streaked through it?
Oh, that's weird. Yeah.
Peanut butter that does.
Yeah.
No.
But marshmallow fluff is not weird?
Well, it's very bad for your teeth. I had a lot of cavities. I paid the price, but it was really good. I don't like it anymore, but I used to like it when I was a kid.
Are we all of the generation where if you went and went to the dentist and had no cavities, they gave you a lollipop?
Yes.
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 To make sure you did. Exactly.
Now they've
it
switched
works.
to stickers.
I was wondering whether there was an acquired memory.
No, that actually happened. I remember. But I never got the lollipop because I always had cavities. No fluoride in the water in my hometown.
Now listen to this. I'm sorry.
Or in Salt Lake City either. So
you didn't have? Did you have a lot of cavities?
No. They just got rid of fluoride in the water.
They got rid of it?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. But they had it when
on
you
the advice of RFK Jr., I believe.
Oh God. Yeah, he doesn't like that either.
Here's another one. Anonymous texter. If you haven't tried this, please do. Thank me later. Peanut butter, bacon, sliced tomatoes, red onion, sprouts on a toasted everything bagel. Keeps you going all afternoon or morning and full of healthy, minus the bacon, stuff. Would either of you eat that? Exactly.
Yes, absolutely. I would.
You would with tomatoes and sprouts?
It would be a different
and bacon
experience.
and peanut butter?
It sounds odd, but I would try it. Now, Joan from Needham is more up my alley.
What'd she say?
She said, I eat a peanut butter sandwich with lettuce at least 3 times a week. I used to do that too. Lettuce and butter. Butter, peanut butter, and lettuce.
Yeah, the lettuce gives you a vegetable.
It does give you a vegetable. Or you can put alfalfa sprouts in there too.
Or ketchup, too.
No, that's a joke, right?
Do you do ketchup?
Okay, that was a Ronald Reagan
just
joke.
Checking.
Okay, thank you. Suki, I believe that's your name. I love that name. You're in Rhode Island. Hi, Suki. What's up?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, so I just came across this recipe recently, and it's like a cobbler that you just throw together for breakfast or brunch, you know, if company are coming. And it had bananas, strawberries, and blueberries. But the thing that attracted me is the peanut butter. And so I've made it several times already. It's so easy, and you just throw it together and bake it in an 8x8 pan. And it called for a quarter cup of peanut butter, but I made it to a half, just to get more peanut butter flavor.
Wow,
beautiful.
That's
lovely.
a good one.
Thank you, Suki. We appreciate that. We really do. How about this? This is from our colleague Hannah, who's probably is she the healthiest person on the
She's
show?
very
She is the
healthy.
healthiest.
She rides
person
her
on the
bike
show.
everywhere.
Peanut butter, sriracha. I don't think so. Sprouts and carrot sandwich. My college dining hall go-to. Yes, exactly.
Okay, here's another one. I'm having my daily afternoon snack of Honeycrisp apples dipped in Teddy peanut butter.
I would do that in a second.
Have it every day if possible, on toast, swirled in Greek yogurt, graham crackers as well.
Totally would do that.
Yummy.
That sounds pretty good.
It does sound pretty
That's more
good.
the direction I go with peanut butter. I guess peanut butter purist.
Yeah, you know, well, that's true. You don't want to mess it up. You don't want to. Do you put jelly on your sandwich or just plain peanut butter?
My favorite thing is a really good piece of sourdough bread, butter, and peanut butter.
Me too. I love
double fat.
butter and peanut butter.
The bond
great.
between you two is so much deeper than it was
That's
at
right.
11 o'clock.
Yeah,
It's beautiful.
The butter on one slice and the peanut butter on the other, you
Right.
smush them together.
Do you have a
my
dog?
God.
Do you have a dog?
We did.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
No, he was wonderful. His name was Oban, like the town in Scotland and the Scotch. He was named after the Scotch. He was about the same color.
Did you ever feed him peanut butter?
Yes, but he couldn't get it off the roof of his mouth.
Didn't you? Don't you love? I mean, is that torture or fun? That's exactly
I
what
think
they
it's
do.
torture for the dog and fun for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is probably.
That's what I used to do every time I left. I would put a little thing of peanut butter inside the red Kongs, you know, for the dog.
Yeah.
So that would keep him
Spend the rest
distracted.
of the time trying to get it out of there.
Yeah. But he kept him, he wouldn't be looking at me with peanut butter, and I would feel less guilty leaving him alone.
It's a beautiful segment, actually. Laura in Hubbardston, you are next on BPR with Keith Lockhart, Margery Egan, and me, Jim Browdy. Hi. And by the way, the Culture Show is coming up. We should have said this before. Live in exactly 14 minutes right here. Laura, hi.
Hello, my radio friends.
Hi there.
Hi.
Hello. My story is that my mother, who was born in 1923, was a person who went to Spags in Shrewsbury on Route 9 for years to get her peanut butter, which was ground like right there in front of her, and she loved that. But when they stopped it, she went to Teddy peanut butter, and she was a totally Teddy peanut butter person until she died at 97.
Wow.
On the day that the world closed for COVID.
Wow.
That's a life.
So we could live to be 97, Keith. Keep eating that
Just
peanut butter.
keep eating the peanut butter.
Yeah.
So did she pass that on to you? I missed the beginning. Did she pass that love of peanut butter on to you or no?
No, but she certainly passed it on to my sister, who buys peanut butter and peanut butter and peanut butter at Trader Joe's. Sorry, Jim, but I like almond butter.
That's okay.
Yeah.
We like you anyway.
you don't
Laura,
like
thank you for the
Vegemite.
call. What?
As long as you don't like Vegemite.
Vegemite. I don't get that at all.
What country is that a big thing in Australia?
Australia.
Hey, thanks.
You have to put Trader Joe's in the refrigerator. That's the problem with Trader Joe's peanut butter. I like Trader Joe's, but their peanut butter refrigerated. No
That's
go.
nice, Margery.
You're welcome.
So an anonymous texter says, I put peanut butter in all of my sandwiches. This is a test for you too. Tuna melts and hamburgers. I even had it on, this can't be real.
Is this what, a gag reflex?
We don't know. I even had it
test?
on an Italian sub, much to the dismay of the sandwich makers, Teddy is my brand. That's not real. I mean,
that's a bad idea.
That's a very bad idea.
Yeah, very bad idea.
Don't try this at home.
How many people love peanut butter in this audience? Can you raise your hand? And okay, put them down. And of you who raised your hand, how is it Teddy's or nothing else? Well, that's rather pathetic. That's like 5-10 people out of the whole audience who are Teddy devotees, like the two of you.
Well, it is local, which I didn't realize.
If they try it once,
they'll never
go back.
Do you have a Teddy song you can sing or no?
No, I don't think there is a. Now that they're national, there's probably going to be, maybe a jingle.
Why don't you write that, baby? How huge would that be?
I will. That could be my big break.
That could be. Yeah, you need a break. I think that's true.
Oh, one of the texts is reminding us, Elvis was big on peanut butter and banana sandwiches.
Didn't he die on a peanut butter sandwich? Or what did he die?
He didn't die.
Oh, he's in the toilet?
No,
Where was he?
He had a heart attack.
Standing on a peanut butter sandwich?
No, I thought he choked. Didn't he choke on what happened? How did he die, Jamie? He was on the toilet.
Yeah,
John knows.
I think it was a drug overdose. I think he had a heart attack or something like that.
I don't think.
His body pretty much gave out.
I don't think peanut butter was involved.
No, I don't think peanut butter was involved. You're thinking of Mama Cass.
I'm thinking of the guy in The
that was a ham
Sopranos. Speaking of The
sandwich.
Sopranos, didn't he get killed on the toilet? What's the name of the guy who was killed in the toilet?
We should have asked Marianne Leone when she was
we'll
here.
figure it out in a couple of seconds here. Let's go. We're talking about peanut butter, and the reason we're talking about it, even though you had no idea why, is not because Keith and Margery are Teddy devotees, even though they are, but because it's Teddy's 100th birthday. What?
Peanut butter on celery.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
That's fine.
A lot of people do that.
Yeah.
It's a good hors d'oeuvre.
Okay, can we talk
Ants on a log, you put the little raisins on
That's
top of them?
right.
Oh, that's what it's
Peanut
called.
butter
That's
and
right.
raisins. That's
Look at this
another-
smile on Keith's face.
Little sweetness.
Taking me
right?
back to my childhood here.
I know.
Let's just not do the Jell-O mold again, shall we?
No. Oh, God, with the marshmallows inside. That was so disgusting.
But we digress.
We do. Well, it's fine. Jane in Waltham, hello there.
Oh, hey. Do you know what?
Yeah.
Oh, thanks, Keith, for being on.
My pleasure.
This is torturous for me.
Why?
The more things you're talking about, I eat peanut. It was a staple in our lives, in our household, my whole life until I was 43. Developed a life-threatening peanut allergy.
Oh, I never heard of that. Late in life, or middle of life. Go ahead.
Well, late in life. This is what happened. You usually hear at the age of a toddler, little kids, right? Well, I'll make this very quick. I was recovering from the first bone marrow transplant. And my immune system was growing back. This was interesting. It was only the age of, my immune system was about a year and a half old.
Yeah.
And I went out, anaphylaxis. I was at the hospital when it happened. I was having a trip.
I think it's a little too much detail here, Jane, if you know what I mean. But give us what you feel you need to. Go ahead.
You have to all eat peanut butter, eat a Reese's cup, eat peanut M&Ms, a Snickers bar, and at Halloween, eat those Butterfingers for me.
We'll do that for you.
The only thing I've had instead, I can eat sunflower butter, which is good, sunflower seed butter, but it's not the same.
No, it's not the same.
I think you just committed a HIPAA violation. But thank you, Jane, for your call. We appreciate it. By the way, someone, one of our colleagues, I assume, Elvis had a sandwich called the Elvis. What was in it? The Velvet Elvis, or simply the Elvis, is a sandwich with toasted bread. I love toast, by the way. Not that that really matters.
Well, who doesn't love toast,
Peanut
Jim?
butter, sliced or mashed banana. I love peanut butter with banana, and occasionally bacon. I could do that. I could do that.
Remember we had a donut the other day with
bacon on it? Yeah.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Boy, let's talk about bacon bourbon.
Oh.
Does it taste like bacon?
Yeah. In fact, I know some people who make it homemade, and it actually has an oil slick on it from the bacon. I can't.
Love that.
I love bourbon and I love bacon, but never the twain shall meet.
But they did.
Some people's minds, yes.
But you don't think it's any good?
I think it's scary.
It's scary.
Yeah.
So it's bourbon that has a bacon flavor to it.
Bacon-infused bourbon, as opposed to bourbon-infused bacon. So.
Maybe that would work better. I don't know.
Since you mentioned, I know, staying on digressions, you're a big bacon fan, obviously.
Oh, yes.
There was a restaurant that is sadly closed, and maybe you can help me out. The woman, after her restaurant closed, we met her because she was an advisor. Who's the woman who owned all the restaurants in town and then had some issues?
Barbara
Lynch.
Barbara Lynch. Barbara Lynch.
In this woman's restaurant, guess what she told us the bar snack was? You go to the bar, instead of peanuts or some other crap, guess what the bar snack was?
Chunks of bacon?
Whole strips of bacon by like the 1,000. Exactly
you
my
imagine?
reaction.
You'd be there all
Do you
night
believe
long.
it closed before we got to it? It's sad.
Yeah. One of my closest friends makes bacon hors d'oeuvres, but it's cooked with brown sugar and put like on a little cracker.
Oh my!
Oh my God!
Bacon
Every time
candy.
she brings them to a party, they
Candied
get
bacon.
wiped out.
Well, I'm sorry Barbara never did that at Number 9 Park or Monton or any other
No,
place.
I don't think. No, it was not her. It was her. Something. Her. I don't know what she was. In any case, but she was a restaurateur before she was working with Barbara. In any case, Jim and Groveland, you're next on BPR. Keith Lockhart, Margery Egan, Jim Browdy. Hi.
Hi. First time in a very, very long time.
Thank you, Jim.
What's up?
I lived in. I grew up in Everett, right next to Teddy Peanut Butter.
Oh gosh.
Sacramone Park was adjacent to the building.
Yeah.
And we would smell peanuts a lot of times during the roasting process. I lived in a section called the Village, which is a separate part of Everett. It was kind of disconnected from the rest of the town. But when they were roasting peanuts, the whole village would smell like wonderfully like roasted peanuts. And, we've been Teddy Peanut Butter fans all our lives. But a funny little thing.
Quick.
When you could smell peanuts, if you had laundry out, you had to take it in real quick because
that's great.
The peanut smell would have oil in it, and it would land on your clothes. And then the windows were kind of hard to clean from time to time because they had peanut oil on them.
Oh, my God.
We love Teddy Peanut Butter.
Jim, thanks.
And it was a privilege to grow next door.
That's a great story. Thank you very much for
there was
calling.
a Necco factory in Cambridge on Main Street.
Oh,
a
yeah.
long time ago it closed, but if the wind is blowing in the proper direction, you can still smell it when you drive down Main Street, which is great. So look who's here.
See, a texter said?
What?
They heard Harriet Heinemann, the shot putter.
Okay, fine.
Loved Teddy's peanut butter on her liverwurst sandwiches.
Okay,
That's Jim's girlfriend.
No, it was not
Love
my
of his life.
girlfriend. It was
She's
not
a
my
shot
girlfriend.
putter.
And she
Harriet
was
Heinemann.
every day.
What do you
every
think?
day. It's like a broken record. It was a broken child's record. The child being Margery.
Nothing to be embarrassed
amazed
about,
at how
Jim.
much abuse you take on a daily
I
basis.
said, hey, and you're talking to me, correct?
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Have you
Can
gone
we
to
hear a little applause for that? Thank you. Nobody's applauding.
Have you gone to the Harriet YouTube channel?
Okay,
There's
fine.
a whole channel.
You stay out of this.
The animation is fantastic.
Jared Bowen.
I heard
the
that's who
host
he
of
is.
the
Yeah.
Culture Show.
He is.
on
Thank you.
WGBH.
He is. What do you think of peanut butter?
I love peanut
What
butter.
do you think of Teddy's?
I love Teddy's.
They will eat nothing. These two people, nothing except Teddy's. What do you think?
Nothing except for Teddy's. No, Skippy.
Oh, my God.
No,
if that's what you
Jared.
grew up on.
Well, I grew up in it too, but you're supposed to evolve.
Yeah, then you got cultured.
He's evolved.
You got taste. I run by the Teddy's factory, and you can smell the peanut butter in the air from that.
Oh, you run by
Okay,
it. Oh, excuse
next
me.
time-
Thank
Come
you.
on.
Next time
Let's talk
you
about
try,
Harriet's YouTube channel.
You try Teddy's, you will never go back.
Okay.
All right.
Okay,
like
well,
the
let's
challenge.
not do that either. Okay, what are you doing on the the Culture Show, which is live in 4 minutes right here?
We're going to be talking about there are new submissions for the Massachusetts state flag. So we have our first indication of what the new state flag might look
Go
like.
ahead.
So
Horrible,
we'll talk
all
about
of them.
that. Speaking of
Motto's horrible, design's horrible.
people thinking
Next,
about
sorry.
horrible design, Ron DeSantis in Florida is painting over the crosswalk walks that were created by artists, LGBTQ
God.
art, school kids creating art, and he's having all of it painted over because this is the new notion of culture has to be obliterated in some circles. And then fashion, we'll talk about the death of Giorgio Armani and his
91.
legacy. 91, and who's going to succeed? Anna Wintour to some degree, but it'll be Chloe Moll, Candice Bergen's daughter.
I know.
Oh,
isn't
I didn't
that
know it was
wild?
her daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Wow.
they're going to not publish Vogue as often. It's going to be special occasions like
They're gonna
3 or
do-
4 times a
Exactly.
year.
She wants to make it more of an event around special things.
Which sounds like a good idea, actually.
What do you think?
I'm going to stick around and listen.
Okay.
You know,
hey, speaking of that,
thank you
by the way,
so
enough
much.
of him. Can we hear it for Keith Lockhart?
Yes.
Who was
Whatever his
nothing
name
short.
is.
You were really, in all seriousness, you were spectacular.
I'd love to make this a semi-regular
We
event.
would love that. We would love that. And you got a few words in edgewise.
I did. It's
Yeah.
tough, though. You're right.
You are
I
so
understand.
See, she does. She brutalizes
She
me.
does.
From
And
11.
then I kind of get into that with her, and we beat up on you together.
I
Now
love
I
that,
see
yeah.
how the
Isn't it?
dynamic works.
It's very fun.
And I have a long memory, too, so there
Okay.
you go. Keith Lockhart, you're the best. We loved having
Thank you
you.
so
Thanks,
much,
guys. Do it again.
Keith
Thanks so
Lockhart.
much.
Thank you for listening to another edition of Boston Public Radio. People that came down here at the Boston Public Library, really appreciate it. On Monday, we're going to be joined by the NAACP's Michael Curry, journalist Mark Lieberich from The Atlantic, Boston Medical Center's Dr. Catherine Gergen-Barnett. Can't wait to see what she says about RFK Jr. And Blue Hub's Elise Sherry and housing advocate Rose Webster Smith. Our crew, Zoe Matthews, Aidan Comley, Nicole Garcia, and Peanut Butter Girl, Hannah Laws. Our engineer is John the Claw Parker. Our executive producer is Jamie Bologna. Special thanks to our BPL staff, Maddie Geyer and her Reese's research on Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, Patrick Lally, Brad Lewis, Juan Jose Cadena, Olivia Corsillo, our host of the Newsfeed Cafe, and across the street at the Lenox Hotel, The Culture Show. Their weekend review starts immediately after we shut up here, 89.7 GBH, and they also are live from the Boston Public the Boston Public Library.
Whatever it is.
I'm Margery Egan.
I'm Jim Browdy. Thank you all for coming. You're a great audience.
Thank you so much, Keith, for coming in. This is so much fun. Have a great weekend. Hope you can tune in on Monday.
What's trending? What's interesting? What's going on around town? We're talking all things arts and culture on The Culture Show, next on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And the Boston Speaker Series, continuing its 2025-2026 season at Symphony Hall with 7 evenings, featuring Tipping Point author Malcolm Gladwell, Dr. Anthony Fauci, Ken Burns, and former National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster. BostonSpeakers.org. Wondering what's cooking this weekend? The better question is, what's not cooking? Catch all your favorite culinary shows, starting tomorrow morning with Movable Feast at 10:30 and continuing all afternoon on GBH2.
You're listening to 89.7 WGBH HD1 Boston. Online at gbhnews.org. GBH News. What matters to you?
I'm Jared Bowen. This is The Culture Show. Coming up today, in Florida, rainbow crosswalks have been painted right into the culture war crosshairs. Governor Ron DeSantis is removing all street art, saying they're a safety hazard and that they should not be used for political messaging.
We're not going to use the roads for that purpose. The roads are there for either pedestrians to cross or cars to go, and that's what it's going to be.
But when the rubber hits the road, Florida residents want to keep the local color.
It just is stupid. It doesn't harm the traffic. The traffic can figure this out.
You take one step backwards, we're going to take 5 steps forward, because now we are going to paint buildings. You're going to see people that are going to do more.
And South Park returns with a new episode featuring Jesus, Satan, and the harsh realities of tariffs, which is complicating the Labubu craze sweeping through the elementary school.
I got this new girlfriend, and she wants this specific Labubu for her birthday.
Oh, that very rare Labubu. You only find that in a mystery box.
Okay, how much is a mystery box?
$85.
85?
Yeah, you gotta pay tariff. You think I pay tariff? No, you pay tariff.
But while South Park skewers Donald Trump, director Woody Allen showers him with praise for his acting. He's proclaimed the Donald's star turn in his film Celebrity.
Look who's here, Donald Trump. What are you working on, Donald?
Well, I'm working on buying St. Patrick's Cathedral. Maybe doing a little rip-down job and putting up a very, very tall and beautiful building.
Well, that's just wonderful.
From there, we remember Giorgio Armani. He changed fashion, not to mention the idea of fashion forever, bringing sleek, understated tailoring to the runway, to the red carpets, and to culture at large, where the Armani suit became shorthand for sophistication, wealth, and power.
Suddenly, there he was wearing Armani on Sunday. Mr. Big. I admit it was kind of a shock. Up until that moment, I thought he only believed in the Yankees.
And Jordan Hudson has filed a trademark application for the term gold digger, offering insight into her relationship with Bill Belichick and their Gilded Age difference. We take on that and more right now on our Art and Culture Week in Review.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's art and culture programming.
How did you guys meet?
Not talking about this.
No?
No.
Well, welcome to the Culture Show, live from the Boston Public Library. I'm Jared Bowen.
Lisa Simmons.
And I'm Edgar B. Herwick III.
We're going over the week's top arts and culture headlines, starting with a redesign of the Massachusetts state flag and seal. Lisa, how many times have you done the show? You don't know how to start the show yet.
I'm so sorry. I was taken aback by all the clapping. Thank you so much.
More than 1,150 public submissions have been narrowed down to just a few options for further review. The proposed flag designs include the Blue Hill banner and a Mayflower motif and a circle of turkey feathers, each reflecting the state's history and indigenous heritage. Public hearings this fall will give residents a chance to weigh in before the legislature makes its final decision. Well, usually I start it, I give the background, but Lisa, I think you, in your role with Mass Cultural Council, you have some insight into how this is developed and where we are now in having a new state flag.
Right. I mean, I think it's really exciting. I know that people are like, it's like the Cracker Barrel thing. Do we really need a new flag? But we know that, this particular flag was, created in 1908. It was really sort of controversial coming into like the 2000s and everything, racially insensitive, colonial violence, or all these sort of issues. So, and Governor Baker in January 2021 created this commission, and this commission was supposed to look at how we can change the flag, what changes need to be made. And so in 2022, there were recommendations, yes, this should change, but unfortunately, by the time 2023 rolled around, the commission had reached its deadline. And so then in 2024, Governor Healy was like, we really need to put this commission back together. And so it's actually been moving very quickly. So now we have had submissions that happened in 2025, over 1,100 submissions for the new flag. And then they have whittled it down to 48 seal flag finalists, and I think we're going to see them.
Yeah, we'll put them up right now. If you're here at the Boston Public Library, we'll put them up on the monitor. If you're streaming at our GBH News YouTube channel, we'll show you. This is the existing flag, and many people find this problematic because it features an indigenous figure with a sword hanging above his head. So we'll transition now to some of the newer options. We're excluding some of them, like the Duncan colors, or a seal riding a surfboard. But this is an example of the Mayflower, on a field of blue, and then we'll move forward to, these are turkey feathers, which of course is very emblematic of Massachusetts.
And Native American heritage.
Of course, absolutely. And then the next one is really hearkening to our coastline here in Massachusetts. And I know from a little bit of background, privileged information, that these are launching points, that there is still a lot of work to be done. So what we're seeing won't necessarily be what's going to end up as the new state flag.
I mean, so a lot of people are dunking on these. They're like, these are terrible. I think these are perfectly fine. In particular, I think the turkey feathers, I think that's quite elegant. I think it's really nice. There's clearly been some thought put into these, like each one of them. There's six turkey feathers in the turkey feather one, right? That's
there's
because
always
we were the sixth state to join the union. I like the idea of it being on a cranberry-colored background or a crimson background, so that's a nod to Massachusetts. I think that these are pretty good, and I think they're all better than what we have.
Well, it gets a little dicey, too, because to understand a little bit more of the indigenous figure that we see on the current state flag, that illustrator took a real-life figure for the body, real-life figure for the head, but then took a skeleton from Harvard, and that's how they outline the body. So now there is a big debate, though, about whether are you going to completely remove an indigenous figure, or do you keep some indigenous representation? So there's a lot of work to be done, because a lot of people have different notions about what it means to represent Massachusetts.
Exactly, and I think that two of the designs, the one with the Mayflower and the one with the feathers, does bring in that indigenous population. So I think that that's a nod to that. So I'm glad that, and it's written in that so you can understand what it means, and the turkey feathers and how important that is to indigenous communities here in Massachusetts. So yes, I think that's great. I mean, the great thing too is that there's public comment. They're supposed to be going around the next couple of months and holding public hearings. If you can write in what you think about it and how you want to see the changes. But you're right, Jared. This is just the beginning. So it will change over time with public comment. So I think that that's good too. They want it to be transparent. They want it to be open, so everyone had a chance to chime in.
Also, in theory, the third one, the Blue Hill banner one, is also, at least, they say there is a nod to the native heritage here as well by having having the Great Blue Hill, the name Massachusetts, of course, referring to a meeting place of a hill. So, I think that, I think it's, you gotta imagine, that it is very hard to pick a single flag that is like visible. Like the rules of flags, right, are like you should have simplicity, you should be able to see it and know what it is, right? So you don't have a lot to work with.
Right.
And then to have the brief be, this has got to be something that is embraced by all people in Massachusetts and everybody feels like this is representative
of themselves, but also representative of themselves.
That is such a hard thing to actually pull off. So no matter what they choose, somebody's going to be able to find criticism.
Times 3, because we're also looking for a new state motto, and we're also looking for a new state seal.
Yes.
So all of this has to be represented. So probably good that we're hashing it all out at the same time. Great that there's a lot of public input, and hopefully artists will step forward too and have a help in shaping this and refining it. So that we can have a really
because a lot of them,
flag.
all of the ones that were presented were artists that were presenting this work. So I think it's an exciting time. I know it's hard. Change is hard, but
yeah.
Hey.
Well, speaking of which, speaking of logos, Cracker Barrel's short-lived rebrand accused the company of being woke for ditching its iconic old-timer character. In response, Cracker Barrel not only restored the original logo, it also went a step further, removing its LGBTQ+ pride and DEI pages. Visitors are now directed to general culture and belonging pages on the Cracker Barrel website. So if you're wondering about our timeline, because we were off last week, we thought this was worth revisiting even though it happened 2 weeks ago. But this is, first of all, I realized I was really confused because I didn't understand why this was a woke issue, and it turns out it's really not. I mean, we're talking about a figure who was added to the Cracker Barrel logo in the 1970s, and people just like nostalgia. But the background to this is that Cracker Barrel has been facing a downturn. So not only were they rebranding itself with this new logo, but they were also rebranding the restaurant. A lot of people are upset about that, too. They were kind of cleaning it up, as you'll say. They were taking away a lot of the artifacts that some would say populated, others would say cluttered the Cracker Barrel restaurants to have something a little bit more streamlined, and people are not having it. And then when the president didn't have it, everything changed.
I mean, it's Cracker Barrel, but I mean, I understand it's the same.
Wait, what do you mean by that?
All right, so it's nostalgia, and I think that people understand that. Like, we're even talking about the state flag, and that's going to prompt a lot of people to talk about. And the other things we're talking about on the show today is going to prompt that same conversation, right? But it's true. It's sort of like, oh, now we have to go back to the old logo, and oh wait, we need to scrub the whole website of everything, like of LGBTQ, of anything that reeks of quote unquote DEI. And so, I mean, I think it's, here's Cracker Barrel trying to stay relevant and moving into the future and finding out that that's not what people want and having to backstep because their stock even went lower when Trump said, this is ridiculous, you better change this back to what it was. And so I think it's just this sort of like balance of how are we going to live in the future and respect the past and make sure that we're not losing market share. I mean, I think that's an important piece of it.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a lot of things. I mean, and this is, I've said this term on this show before, but everything feels like a proxy war right now, and this is getting caught up, and it's yet another proxy war about whatever wokeness or change or what people kind of imagine, the past to be. I mean, I think that's another thing here is like, Cracker Barrel is a large publicly traded company.
Yeah.
Right? It is, and even from the outset, the idea behind it was trying to kind of evoke a somewhat imagined American past.
Yes.
It's not like it started as an actual country store. It started to present the image of an imagined past, and yet people really are attached to it, and they're ascribing like their own feelings about the past to it.
Because that's what people are trying to hold on to. They're trying to hold on to that
And
past.
it's only a few people, which is what those people don't realize, because this is why business was down, because something just wasn't working anymore. And I know that we all don't want things to change. I'm clearly somebody who, well, not clearly, I don't often talk about this, but I mean, it's hard.
Jared, too. Talk about it. Let's tell us.
It's hard to see things change. GBH instead of WGBH. But But everything evolves, everything changes. This is how society moves forward. Sometimes we do go back. Sometimes we do figure out that it's the best thing for something to have the older version of it. But we all have to iterate.
I know, but I do think it's that nostalgia. I do think we're living in a time where people want things like they were back, whatever the 50s, and it was
but
simple.
But this is my point. Our notions
know.
of the 50s are from movies and pictures, and it's a very narrow, selected idea of what somebody else tells you the 50s were like.
Exactly. I mean, it's unfortunate. I mean, it's what's crazy to me is that just a little while ago, when it did say on their website, on behalf of Cracker Barrel's LGBTQ and Alliance and DEIB team, we want to celebrate you for being you, and it's our greatest mission to ensure that we're pleasing all people. And then all of a sudden,
well, this is not a good business model to suddenly exclude some of the people. How is that going to help your business by not welcoming everyone into your doors? And this is where, of course, things change, because something that was not a woke issue, something that was really just a business plan or even a design issue has become a presidential issue.
Right.
And this is the White House, again, dictating and interjecting itself into the public discourse, and especially in popular culture, and then changing the waves. Just as we talked about Sydney Sweeney, there was part of this, that became the Sydney Sweeney jeans ad for American Eagle became something more, at least in my opinion, more than what it really was. She was saying, I have good genes because my parents were probably good looking because I'm good looking.
Right.
It wasn't anything necessarily more than that.
But you could read so much more into
that.
that.
But I think you also need to see this in the context of, the current media climate, and you have people like Robbie Starbuck, who's he's an anti-DEI influencer. He's one of these people on the right who has a voice, has a platform, has a lot of followers. And he sort of took this up as a cause. And so, we do see these things where there are figures out here who are using these issues for, their gain.
Yeah, I was going to say that. We're living in the world of social media, and influencers are just as important as...
If not more so.
More so, yeah.
Which is a reason we should go to Florida now, where Governor Ron DeSantis is taking his quote-unquote war on woke to the streets, literally. His administration has ordered the removal of rainbow crosswalks, murals, and other community artworks across the state, calling them unsafe and politically charged. Critics say it's really about erasing LGBTQ plus visibility and eradicating artistic expression. We are not just talking about the LGBTQ community, because that got a lot of headlines because there was a crosswalk in front of the Pulse nightclub that had the colors of the pride flag. But we're also talking about kids who were entering into public mural and public art contests. We're talking about community groups who were dressing up their walls in their neighborhoods. And Ron DeSantis wants the eradication of art, at least public art, in Florida right now.
He just wants the eradication of everything. You know what I mean? I mean, to go to and to have the control basically over local government. Like I think somebody said, this isn't just an LGBTQ issue. This is an issue of taking over local control, right? And having that say in that, and being that big bully and saying you can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, and also, I think we heard his statement in the opening of the show. I mean, he's just like, roads are for crossing the road and driving on. They're not for anything else. I mean, that's so strange. Also, the notion, I mean, there is something quite anti-democratic in the idea that, you're going to say, we can't have political messaging in public spaces.
Well,
the whole idea of this country is that in public spaces you can go into those public spaces and have a political debate. So that's bonkers.
Well, and I just keep thinking about this is where we can applaud artists even more, because people can go after the artists all they want.
Yeah.
But as I've talked about frequently, artists are among the community that has the least to lose, because we've never given them very much. So they're going to continue
and
going.
Haven't given us very much. Or haven't given artists very much. Yes.
Yeah. And so, the artists give us a lot for not a lot in exchange. And so they're going to keep on going. They're going to keep on making art. The art can pop up at all hours of the day. And this is all about expression, with people having the talent and the notion to say the things they want to say.
And I love that that other private businesses are painting their sidewalks or painting their parking lots, and that they're defiant in going and putting stickers on cars, or they're painting on chalk, and it's just like, we're not going to sit back, and we're not going to let this happen. So, I think that it's just the same thing as Nonantum. It's just the same thing.
Shall we explain this?
Yes,
I can explain this a little bit
because you lived there.
I lived not only in Nonantum, but I lived on the street where it happened. So there has been ongoing debate in this village of Newton, where it's a very predominantly Italian neighborhood, but they let me live there. And for years on Adams Street, they had the tricolored
Italian
strips going down the street. And it was the colors of the Italian flag. And then the mayor decided, sort of arbitrarily, that they needed to go away. She also cited safety reasons, and for those reasons, they needed to paint just the yellow lines going down the road. Nonantum did not enjoy that. So there's been this huge back and forth. It's been covered in the New York Times. We have a picture of it if you're streaming on our GBH News YouTube channel. So it has been painted yellow. It has been repainted, the tricolors. So this has been going back and forth. And people have said, who are of all stripes, not just Italian, that this is not a heritage issue. This is a neighborhood issue.
Right.
And they wanted it there. And P.S., I happen to know from design people that when you add more color to crosswalks or things of that nature, it increases safety, actually, because it's something different for drivers to pay attention to.
Exactly. And I love that story because it goes back and forth. It's like you wake up one morning and it's the Italian flag. You wake up the next morning and it's the yellow line. It's sort of like what's happening in Florida. You wake up in the dark of night, they're going in and painting over this artwork and painting over this stuff. And so I like the controversy, and I like the way that people are fighting back.
Yeah, and I think that one sort of thing to take away, if we look at this and the Cracker Barrel thing, which you kind of. There is this notion that I am encouraged when I see people just in big and small ways, whatever their reasons, kind of pushing back against the idea of us ending up with a monoculture, right? I think one of the issues with the Cracker Barrel logo, there is is it about nostalgia, is it about change? But it's also like it looked like such a sort of bland, corporate, plain logo, and what was taken away was something that was unique, right? And so in this case, you see this as well in this neighborhood where they're saying, could we have yellow lines? Sure, but here's a little bit of neighborhood character, and that is important to people. And I think that is actually kind of encouraging that people are pushing back against a very bland monoculture.
Absolutely.
Well, coming up, Satan, Trump, and a Labubu craze. They all collide in South Park's latest outrageous episode. That and more is next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
I'm Arun Roth. Coming up on GBH's All Things Considered, former Boston City Councilor Tanya Fernandez Anderson is being sentenced on federal corruption charges. The MBTA is offering free evening fares this weekend to promote its new late-night service. And 2 shipwrecks more than a century old have been discovered at the bottom of Lake Huron and Lake Michigan. They're just part of the mystery beneath the Great Lakes. Those stories and all the day's news starting at 4 on GBH 89.7.
Funding for our programs comes from you.
And Buzzards Bay Coalition. You can choose your own coastal biking adventure on October 5th with 41, 77, and 100-mile options. SaveBuzzardsBay.org/ride. This message funded by the Southeastern Mass Visitors Bureau. And Newport Mansions, presenting Richard Morris Hunt in a new light, an illuminating exhibition celebrating the Dean of American Architecture, on view through November 2nd at Rosecliff Mansion. Tickets at newportmansions.org. And The Wilbur. Phil Rosenthal returns to Boston for 2 nights on his Somebody Feed Phil tour, Wednesday, September 10th and Thursday, September 11th. Tickets and information are available at thewilbur.com.
GBH Daily is a newsletter that keeps you informed, connected, and ready to go every weekday morning. You can subscribe today and get it in your inbox at gbh.org/daily.
Welcome back to The Culture Show. I'm Jared Bowen, live from our GBH studio at the Boston Public Library. I'm joined by co-host Edgar B. Herwick III and Culture Show contributor Lisa Simmons. She's the artistic and executive director of the Roxbury International Film Festival. If you're just tuning in, it's our Arts and Culture Week in Review, which includes how one museum is reclaiming a whitewashed history of the Great Depression. The Museum of Art and Light in Manhattan, Kansas, is exhibiting rare Farm Security Administration photographs from the 1930s and 40s that capture the everyday spaces of black Southerners, the homes, churches, schools, and barbershops that became sanctuaries during a time of economic hardship and racial violence. So this really is using photography, it's using art to reacquaint people with the actual history. We've been talking a lot about this and who's defining history, how art represents it. So we'll put up some images now that are shown in this exhibition, and they show rural life in the time of the Great Depression, but it's where black families, black kids are finding sanctuary in their homes, gathering together, whether it be in schools, in churches, or again at the dinner table, or just on their front porches. But I think if most of us think about the Great Depression, these are not the images we think about. These are not the images that we typically see or conjure, because mostly, even though photographers like Walker Evans and others were out there documenting, they were not the ones that were put front and center.
Exactly. I mean, I think that this is a really incredible story, and I think one of the incredible things about it is that this, this woman who put together this exhibit found all of these photographs in the Library of Congress, and I was like, oh wow, great! I'm glad that she got them before they got swept away, right? And it's all this, to me, this story is all really about erasure and about making sure that these images are seen and making sure that we have a holistic view of America at any point in time in America. So, you talk about Walker Evans and Dorothea Lange. I mean, this was during the WPA. This is when, the New Deal was like, we're going to put people back to work, building roads, building bridges, but we also are going to put these artists back to work. And so these photographers were set out to take these pictures of what was actually really going on. And that was one of the problems with the New Deal, right? Was that people saw them as being too, and in this day and age, too woke. Like, you're showing too much. We don't want to see people. But it was really important that they were set out to capture these images. So in Kansas, like you said, in Manhattan, Kansas, is one of those strongholds and has a history of a town that was established by abolitionist settlers. So this is pretty incredible.
Yeah, this is everything about this I love and I think is really awesome. And I encourage, if folks haven't gone to the Library of Congress and just looked at these WPA photos that you talk about even more broadly, it is well worth your time. I remember, so I grew up in a very small area of Pennsylvania, kind of a rural town in Pennsylvania. And there are photographs. They have a great photograph collection in this of coal miners in Pennsylvania. And I remember years ago looking at this and being like, oh wow, like they came here, like they came here and documented this here, and that was that is kind of important in its way. And I love the fact, as you pointed out, that this is something, when we make these archives, when we do these things, like the idea of building a library, there is that is a long-term project, and the idea that years later somebody can go back and comb through this archive and say, here's another new way to present this, here's something that we haven't thought about, but they have that collection to work from. That is so important. And when we're in a current climate like we're in now, where we're seeing all kinds of things happening at the Smithsonian and the Library of Congress and all of these places,
being told what you can put there and what you can't.
This is a reminder of why it's important.
Well, let's just I'm sorry if we seem repetitive every week when we talk about this, but it bears repeating it, especially in this instance, because we've talked so much about what's happening at the Smithsonian right now, and this is the White House defining what Americanism is, which is these notions that do not involve DEI culture. So basically, they're suggesting that an exhibit just like this one shouldn't be taking place in the future, or more scarily, to your thought, Lisa, that the material won't be there in the future. Because remember, we're also without a Librarian of Congress right now.
Yes, exactly.
So who is operating things there? Where a couple of the museums, as part of the Smithsonian Institution, are without leaders right now. We know that Lonnie Bunch, who oversees it all, just recently met at the White House and came away thinking that maybe people were on the same page, that everybody's well-intentioned. We'll see how that bears out. But we just talked about Florida, and I have warned that this is going to come out of the Smithsonian. This is going to come to our own neighborhoods and our own institutions. So we have to be mindful that this is exactly, according to their own words, some of the things that the White House does not want to be defining art right now.
Exactly, and even to to speak about what you said before about how artists right now are so important, right? Because they're the ones that are holding this information, that can put up these shows, that can paint sidewalks, that this is the most important part of that sort of dissonance, and saying, look, we're not going to do what this administration's saying. We're not going to erase people. We're going to raise it up. We're going to make sure that we're providing opportunities for people to see this type of work.
Well, and I think the other thing is, we were just talking about the idea of, the Make America Great Again movement, right? There is a natural sort of nostalgia to that. And we were talking about these images of nostalgia for an imagined time or an imagined place. And I think, you were just like, visibility matters. And the idea that, like Jared, you said at the start of this, we don't necessarily often think of the Great Depression this way because we haven't seen enough of these images. But when there is an archive of them, you can look back and you can say, no. That happened. They were there. It has always been like this. There were black families in America who were impacted by the Great Depression too. And this past that you imagine is maybe not as different as, it's not what you thought it was.
Right. I mean, yeah. So, I think it's really important. I think we're going to see a lot more of this. I'm hoping that more museums will step up. I know that, the current administration is trying to look at the Smithsonian and saying, well, that doesn't represent America. That doesn't, and they're actually going into collections and saying, like, you can't, don't show slavery in this light because it wasn't that bad. And it's sort of like, we really need these things to happen. We really need them. And hopefully, and I'm hoping that this is a touring exhibit. I'm hoping that it's going to see more, move, closer and go to other places that we'll all have a chance to see
Also,
it.
they're beautiful photographs.
Oh, my
They're
gosh.
gorgeous photographs.
Amazing.
Well, that's one way of pushing back. Here's another.
I'm going down south, I'm gonna have myself a time.
Well, while the Kansas Museum is defying White House notions of what American art is these days, South Park is on an all-out tear. It continues to skewer and satirize the Trump administration's war on woke and war on tariffs in its latest episode. It's a psychedelic ride, and this week took aim at Trump and his new baby mama, Satan, the Labubu craze, and Jesus, all in one episode. Here's a clip from this week's episode of South Park when the president and his lover Satan are summoned to South Park via a demonic Labubu ritual.
Hey, Satan!
I don't want to right now.
What? Hey, relax! Come on, Satan, I've been working hard all day.
You haven't been working, you've been doing your stupid memes and just f***ing around.
Come here, girl. Ah, come on, Satan. You know you can't resist this.
That's the voice of Donald Trump that you're hearing right there. So you get the gist. That, by the way, that was from the premiere episode. That wasn't from this week's episode. But this is fascinating to me because South Park is taking hold. I know that you guys talked about this somewhat when I was on vacation this summer, but that was when South Park premiered, and we realized what they were doing, which is really fascinating because South Park is a product of Paramount, and we know that Paramount had its deal with the administration, basically, that if you believe the president, resulted in the excommunication of Stephen Colbert, and yet South Park is able to go on with 3 episodes, 3 or 4 episodes at this point, and skewer the president, and it's made it probably one of the most popular shows on television right now in its 28th year.
It's wild. I mean, it is absolutely wild. And so I'm fascinated by this in part because the speed with which they are doing this, right? So this is it's almost like a current events magazine, and they're turning these episodes around, and they are very responsive to like what happened that week, which is crazy.
But that's how they work.
Yes.
Right? That's how they work. It's not like we're going to do this 6 months in advance, 6 weeks in advance. This is like so timely. But the interesting thing about this is, and we talked about this, and how is South Park getting away with this? This is Paramount. Paramount got rid of Colbert. They're trying to get rid of, Gale on CBS. But meanwhile, here you have this like incredible
Can I just interject? I saw right before we came on the air that CBS has announced that it will only air unedited interviews on Face the Nation now too, and this is in response to the Trump administration as well.
Oh my gosh,
so
we're going to have these rambling. We're going to have these rambling conversations. Anyway, so this is what I find crazy is that the audience for South Park is mainly conservative, MAGA sort of like group, and so like how are they dealing with it? So what I was reading was that they feel like that woke is dead, that they're mocking popular culture, that they're embracing this Trump Satan thing, sort of mythicizing him. This is if Satan wants to hang out with Trump, that's amazing. He's like a God. He's like so I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is crazy. So the left-leaning folks are like, this is funny, this is great, but we're really concerned that it's backfiring and that he's mythic and the show amplifies him as a larger-than-life persona and that they're elevating Trump instead of undercutting him, where during Clinton and Obama and Bush, they used South Park to really demean them, to really show Obama as this slick guy who was doing some, and Bush is this bumbling person who lived in chaos, which was bad, and Hillary Clinton, who, we just know that they just had a field day with her. But Trump is different. They're actually using the satire to push him forward and build him up.
And we should point out that they've taken, South Park has already skewered conversations exactly like this one on NPR. So I think it's really interesting because I've been watching these episodes. I've seen all 4 for this season, and I keep wondering how it's playing. And so I think that's interesting, but I wonder if there's a message that they're trying to hammer home episode after episode. And granted, it's not weekly, so they're popping up as they seem to be able to pump them out and address the issues of the day. But I mean, especially if you watch the latest episode, which has a mantra about the president that we cannot repeat on radio. Maybe if we had a podcast that wasn't stemming from the radio, we could say it there. But I wonder if they're wanting this to stick and if this changes people's minds about things, because they are making the president look very ludicrous, and I can't believe I'm going to say this on the air, but they keep talking about his small manhood.
Right. Yes.
So these are demeaning things. And again, they're equal opportunity offenders.
Right. They are.
And the way they are presenting him, as opposed to animated like everybody else, there are actual pictures of his face in a couple of different expressions that they are cutting through, which I think is also kind of demeaning and very funny. I also find it interesting, it's not all politics too. Their sort of skewering of the use of ChatGPT, I thought was brilliant,
hysterical,
and very funny. My gosh. The Lububu thing is incredibly funny. Jesus as now the guidance counselor at the school is quite funny and sort of an interesting take on the difficulties that teachers face in schools right now. I mean, what I love about this show is it sort of happens on 2 fronts. There's the piece where it's just so crass and bold and ludicrous, but then there is also some much more clever, thoughtful stuff happening all at the same time.
And the most subversive thing, for people who haven't watched the show and don't know what we're talking about, the most likable person on that show right now is Satan.
Yes. Oh, right.
Who seems to be emotionally intelligent and really upset about his relationship with the president, especially now that he's his baby daddy, mama, whatever, however we're going to describe that.
Yeah, he's pregnant.
Lisa, I know you had more to say.
I mean, I think it's brilliant writing. I do think that, with anything that you're watching with something like this in satire, you have to watch it and really think about what it is they're trying to get across. Because you're right, it's 2 ways. They're making fun and they're being satirical, but they're also are using this as a way to uplift, and because people love that, they think outrage and spectacle is funny, and they're sort of let's poke fun at ourselves. It's sort of and we're going to talk about this. Jordan Hudson.
Yeah, and we'll get to that. But there's also this libertarian streak to the show, and I think it was very interesting right before we move on, right out of the gate, how the vice president said, "Oh, I've made it. I'm on South Park." We'll see how long he's going to say that, depending on how much they continue to ridicule him in the future as well. Well, we're moving from South Park satire to Woody Allen's sincerity.
Aww.
He recently praised President Trump for his acting acumen. Here he is on Bill Maher's podcast Club Random, recalling what it was like to direct the president, who was, of course, not the president at that point, in his 1998 film Celebrity.
I directed Trump in a movie.
No.
Celebrity? Yes, in Celebrity. And he was, he was a pleasure to work with and a very good actor. He was very polite.
How dare you?
And hit his mark and did everything correctly and had a real flair for show business.
If you think you were canceled before,
I could direct him now. If he would let me, if he would let me direct him now that he's president, I think I could do wonders.
Yeah, so Hollywood's kind of losing its mind over this. I mean, when Bill Maher was referencing him being canceled before, is for the allegations by his stepdaughter, Dylan Farrow, of sexual abuse allegations, and then many people had canceled him before that for essentially marrying his daughter wife. That would be the adopted daughter of
Mia Farrow.
Who was in the home as kind of a daughter figure before Woody Allen married her. He did go on to say, to balance this out, that he doesn't agree with 99% of what the president
and then he voted
says.
for Kamala Harris.
Exactly.
Doesn't matter.
But people are parsing this.
I mean, of course they are. I mean, you have these two huge characters that are so divisive, right? And for Woody Allen, I mean, I think for me the biggest part of this story is that when he says, you know, like he was a good actor, like he had a real flair for show business.
He does.
That's what we're in right now.
Yeah.
We're in a show.
Yeah, we are.
We're in a show. This is show business. This is an actor. This is playing the president, and this is, and you know, he's good at that. So, you know, I mean, for me, that's sort of like, you know, came across. But then he says I wanted to direct him so that I could make the decisions. I'm like, this is like. It's very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, look, for me, do I want to listen to Bill Maher and Woody Allen talk for 90 minutes? Absolutely not. I cannot think of anything I want to do less. And that said, I'm glad that I'm a believer in, like, I'm glad that these people can talk. For some people, 90 minutes of Bill Maher and Woody Allen talking is what they want, and I'm glad that there's a place where they can do that and it exists. I believe in, put it out in the world. I'm not a censorist, but like for me, I'm just like, I don't really care that much what either of these two guys think on what's going on right now. I mean, I'm not looking to them for pearls of wisdom necessarily.
The history to this is that just a few months ago, Bill Maher had dinner with the president at Mar-a-Lago and came back saying a lot of what Woody Allen was just talking about. He was lovely. It was a perfect evening.
But also, listen, just because you don't like a person doesn't mean they're not good at anything. It's okay to be like, I don't like the president and his policies. Oh, and by the way, he has a flair for show business. He does. He does.
Well, no,
okay.
And we can see that. And I mean, I think it's true. I think it's interesting too because Allen is this character. Like he's often pays homage to Russian literature. He was at the Moscow Film Festival, being honored as a director. So I mean, there's all these like cross things that are going on with him, with the president. So.
Yeah, I'll just move this one along.
That's fine.
Well, coming up, we remember Giorgio Armani, the legendary designer who turned understated elegance into a global fashion empire. He died this week. That conversation is next on The Culture Show. Stay with us.
Millions of Iranians rely on virtual private networks or VPNs to evade government censors when they're online.
When we live in the free world, it's really hard to imagine how a world without internet works.
Now, a funding freeze in the U.S. means a VPN used by Iranians may have shut down for good. That story next time on The World.
This afternoon at 3, here on GBH News 89.7.
Our programs are made possible thanks to you.
And North Shore Music Theater, presenting Rent, Jonathan Larson's rock musical about struggling artists navigating life during the AIDS crisis in the East Village at Bill Haney's North Shore Music Theater, September 16th through 28th. nsmt.org. And the Office of the Massachusetts State Treasurer. The Unclaimed Property Division is holding unclaimed funds from utility bills, uncashed paychecks, savings accounts, and more. To see if you have unclaimed money, you can visit findmassmoney.gov.
Sponsoring GBH 89.7 can benefit your business and helps keep the local news that matters to you on the air. To learn more about multi-platform packages, visit gbh.org/sponsorship.
GBH News is your home for trusted local news. Get it at 89.7 on the radio, gbhnews.org, and subscribe to the GBH News YouTube channel. GBH News, what matters to you.
I'm Jared Bowen. If you're just tuning in, it's our Arts and Culture Week in Review. I'm joined by co-host Edgar B. Horwick III and Culture Show contributor Lisa Simmons. We're going over the latest headlines, including the death of designer Giorgio Armani at 91. Armani changed fashion by making formal wear as comfortable as sportswear with his signature unstructured jackets and streamlined style. His influence stretched from the runway to the red carpet, building a global brand that came to define modern elegance. So I'll tell you, one of the things that really stood out to me, other than the fact that this just felt like such an epic loss, because he has defined so many generations of fashion. And high and low. Remember, there was Emporio Armani, so there were accessible things too, right? Exactly. There wasn't just the gowns that we saw, or suits rather, that we saw Michelle Pfeiffer and Julia Roberts and Jodie Foster wearing. But I was really struck by the fact that he didn't really become a fashion designer in his own right until he was about 40 years old in the 1970s. Awesome. I love this because so many people are under this illusion that if you don't hit it out of the gate, or when brilliance strikes when you're young, you're never going to get it. That was absolutely not the case. All these seeds were planted with him. He wanted to be a doctor, so a lot of people are saying there was a precision to what he was doing. There was certainly a clean, minimalist aesthetic if you looked at his furniture and interior design and how he dressed himself, always in simple clothing, the navy uniform that he always wore. And then growing up watching his mother sew his clothes, and then kind of branching out and dressing windows in department stores before he really got the confidence and support to go out on his own.
I mean, obviously one of the most successful Italian designer. And I love that story about that he went to medical school, that he ended up having to go into the Army, I think it was, and then, was in a military hospital, and then he was like, oh no, this is not really what I want to do. And then, it is amazing to have that breadth and that impact on an industry over the course of a lifetime, and really, and you're right, it wasn't just how haute couture. It was everybody had the opportunity to be like, oh, that's an Armani. And it meant so much. It meant so much on the red carpet. It meant so much to actors and actresses. At cinema, to him was so important. When he dressed Richard Gere in American Gigolo, and
we have that picture. We'll put it up on
which is also very
GBH
Italian, right?
Yes, exactly.
Like the
or The Untouchables.
Yeah. I mean, what I think about is kind of amazing. I mean, I was just talking about this earlier. Like, I grew up in a small town in Pennsylvania in a pre-internet era, right? And like the cultural penetration of him, I would, shorthand when I was a kid, you'd be like, well, I'm not dressed up in Armani or anything, right? But like that is how wide and deep his name and his influence went. So not only, obviously an amazing designer, but also clearly had incredible business acumen to become the brand name that he was.
Because we don't realize, now that we take it for granted, that he was the one who first set up shop out in Hollywood. He was the one who first started sending his clothes. We'll also have a picture of Jodie Foster, who was wearing him, and it brought her so much attention. I'll get back to what I was saying, but not only did it reflect hugely on him, but the people who wore him, people were talking about what they were wearing, whether it was Michelle Pfeiffer, who he later called a muse, or Jodie Foster, who people didn't necessarily think of as a fashion icon until she started wearing Armani, and then people looked at her very differently. The same with Julia Roberts, who went and bought well, actually, we have her talking about this. Let's hear about from Julia Roberts about her iconic Golden Globe red carpet Armani moment.
This was one of my all-time favorite outfits for the Golden Globes. I got this suit at Armani. I went into the men's department, and they had an in-store tailor. I don't even know that people wore really fancy gowns to the Golden Globes then the way they do now, but I thought that I was very extra in this outfit. I could not have known that it was going to become this statement outfit. I just thought I looked fabulous.
So where I interrupted myself was saying that he was the first to send his clothes to celebrities as gifts too, just so they would wear them, and this is how he took hold in Hollywood.
Yeah, I mean, he really ruled the red carpet. Everyone was always, but I didn't know if you knew this, that he was very good friends with Eric Clapton.
I did not.
Yes, and Eric Clapton composed songs for his fashion shows.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and so they were very good friends. And then later that year, Clapton, this was like in 1998, hosted a party at Clapton's Crossroads guitar auction. So he was intertwined in everything. He had cafes. He had.
There was one right here in Boston.
There was one right here in Boston, and so and he was also the president of the Olympia Milano basketball team. He did the designs of the Italian flag bearers at the Italian Winter Olympics. He also did the uniforms at the Summer Olympics in London.
Alitalia, I think.
So it's this is like a Ralph Lauren kind of thing, but who's like has just encompassed every part of fashion and culture.
Did it all like with. I mean, he's the owner.
Yes.
It's not a public company. It's like him and his family and the people he's worked with forever. It's a small team and they did it all together. That's it.
And
That's
his family
amazing.
now is running it.
Yep.
Because that $12.1 billion industry.
And he was working till just the last couple of days. Well, staying in the fashion world, Chloe Mall has been tapped to fill Anna Wintour's very expensive stiletto shoes. Sort of. She has been with Vogue since 2011, credited with doubling the magazine's web traffic. She co-hosts its podcast, The Run Through, and she's expanded Vogue's wedding coverage, so you may have her to thank for putting Laura Sanchez, the bride of Jeff Bezos, on the magazine's cover. Anna Wintour is still overseeing the vast Condé Nast portfolio, but Chloe Mall will be Vogue's new head of editorial content, and she has already indicated in an interview with the New York Times how much she is going to change that magazine. She has been forthright in saying she will not be Anna Wintour light. You will likely not see the monthly issue of Vogue anymore. She wants to publish built around special occasions or cultural moments. She wants to make it a high-quality magazine, which is the reason they won't publish so often. And she also realizes that her job is not just to run a traditional print magazine, but it encompasses everything, digital, perhaps film, everything that media represents now.
I mean, I had no idea that she was Candice Bergen's daughter. I probably should have known that. But I mean, she always says, yes, I'm a Nepo baby, but I've done my work. And she has done her work. Anna Wintour never have handed this over to her. But I mean, I think it's true. I mean, I think it's also, we're seeing a generational shift, right, in the fashion industry. We're seeing people, there's reinventions going everywhere. Harper's Bazaar has done this. British Vogue has done this, brought in new, younger African-American editors, to sort of like move with the times. And I think that that's really important. It's no longer just about runway shows. You're talking about influencers, you're talking about sustainability, social justice. There's a lot of things that are going into the fashion industry now, and I think that that's why she is sort of like, she's been an insider, she's a huge digital dynamo, she knows exactly, she's brought Vogue.com to places where they had no idea where it was going to go. And so I'm excited to see what stamp she's going to put on it. She still reports to Anna.
Yes.
So it'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, who's keeping her same office just down the hall, which is so it's like you're the principal.
Is she in Devil Wears Prada?
Yeah. So she said a couple things that really struck me that I really hope she succeeds in. I'll tell you why. But from a media and publishing standpoint, she not only has she said she wants to do fewer print editions, and she wants to make them a little bit more premium. Like she talked about, like she wants it to be something that you're not going to throw away, you're going to keep, right? I think that's very smart about thinking about where in the future. But she also said of the online audience, she wants to develop a more direct, smaller, healthier audience. For me, I feel like this is the way forward. We have gone through this current generation that we're in, where all of these tools for publishing, for having a website, it's sort of like it became very easy and everybody feels like they got to cover everything all of the time. And I think she's looking at the climate and she's saying, no. I think the way forward is to do fewer things, do them really well, make them very important, maybe to a smaller number of people, but that's who we're going to serve. I think that's great. I hope it works, and I hope other media entities see that and take notes and do the same.
Yeah.
It's going to be fascinating to watch this, because that is a very interesting business model, because that's the antithesis of what everybody is saying right now.
Exactly.
When everybody's just trying to flood the zone about
they're like,
everything.
We have to cover it all.
We have to cover it all, and that's how we're going to get our advertisers, right? Like, we need to put out a magazine every week because we need the advertising, and we need the advertising money in order to push the magazine in order to do that. So, but we're in the digital world, and, I think we're going to see a whole change in fashion, and it'll be really exciting.
Well, I just love that she's Candice Bergen's daughter.
I know, because I love Candice
Bergen. Which is great. Well, maybe one of the tricky editorial calls Chloe Mall will have to face is whether Vogue should cover the Gold Digger jewelry brand in the making. That's because Jordan Hudson, currently in a May-December romance with Bill Belichick, has filed trademark papers for the term Gold Digger. Is this a spoof of their relationship or a peek into it? Where do we even? How do we even? See, is leaning in, I guess.
Well, exactly. So is this the same thing as South Park? You're just leaning into the satire so that you become bigger? I mean, I don't know. Is it a smart move?
If you can't beat him, join him, that kind of thing?
Yes, exactly. That kind of thing. You're going to call me that, so now I'm going to really blow it up.
I'm going to laugh my way to the bank.
Yes, I'm going to use that. I'm going to market to myself. I mean, there are so many things and conversations about this whole relationship and about, I mean, she's this is her company. I know that Bill Belichick has some part of it or some way, shape, or form, but she has applied for 21 other trademarks through this management company, that is focused on Bill Belichick, right?
Like Chapel Bill.
Chapel Bill, all Belichick team.
The Belichick way.
Peachy Keen and Wonderful. I don't know what that is.
I don't know if that
Trail of Salty
I think
Tears.
that was Meghan Markle's. I think I got confused in the trademark patent office.
All more power to her. She's 24 years old. She is, pushing forward and not going to stop and is going to, see where things stick. And well, let's see what happens.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know what to make of any of this with the Bill Belichick and her. And listen, they're two adults. They are entitled to live their lives the way they want to live their lives. And I feel a little bit about this the way I feel about the Bill Maher.
Bill Maher.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like, I mean, they're doing their thing, I guess.
And the other thing is too, it's like Trump also. It's like keeping yourself in the news cycle. She needs to keep herself in the news cycle. We need to keep talking.
And
about
again,
it.
she's laughing all the way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that means it's time for our lightning round. These are the stories, the headlines that caught our attention this week. Lisa, what's yours?
All right, really quickly, James Patterson, crime writer, as we all know, he just launched a new Go Finish Your Book campaign that is awarding grants up to $50,000 to 12 emerging authors to help them complete their manuscripts. This is awesome. This is great. I think that everyone sort of like needs kind of, if you're a writer, if you're a filmmaker, whatever it is, if you can, get someone to notice you and push you forward. I mean, he is such a philanthropist. He is also not only doing Go Finish Your Book, but he also has a teacher education scholarship. He also does bookseller holiday bonus programs. He supports libraries. So hopefully, you writers out there, the next round hopefully is next year. But let's look and see where these 12 emerging writers that are gonna come out of this are gonna write. So it's exciting.
It's another one of those, we were talking about this before, base hits. These base hits by people who have some power and influence in these current times to use it for good, and I love it.
He's so generous. Edgar, what's your lightning round?
So the band The Smiths, famous band The Smiths, fronted by Morrissey, who has become quite problematic over the last few years. But he this week on his website said that he wants to just go ahead and sell all of his stake in The Smiths. He wants to get rid of let's see here. Everything that has to do with them. Their merchandising, their recording, the song titles, lyrics, artworks. He just wants somebody to buy it from him. So he has decided
For how much?
Well, he just said any reasonable offer, and then oddly put a Gmail address up on this post and said, if you want to buy it from me, if you want to buy my interest in the band The Smiths, because I can't take these people anymore, go ahead and email me. And of course, a number of people have tried to email, and apparently the email address doesn't work. So I don't know. I mean,
well, maybe you can do some on-hand negotiating because he'll be at the MGM Music Hall on September 20th.
Oh,
so bring your best offer.
Very interesting.
So my lightning round, actually, I should tell you that Edgar tried to lobby me into a different lightning round when we were preparing for the show earlier because it flashed across the Boston Globe that Nantucket sewage reveals cocaine levels 50% above the U.S. average.
Wait, you're sneaking in a second round.
So,
but it's worth it, isn't it? That's great.
Maybe we'll talk about that.
Really?
I guess it was a pretty good summer on Nantucket, maybe. But that's not mine, because it was supposed to be a good summer out at Burning Man, where they have the Orgy Dome.
Yes.
Because that's what my real lightning round is. Having not been to Burning Man, I've never heard of the Orgy. I swear I've never heard of the Orgy Dome.
We believe you.
But this is a place that 5,000 people went through. It's this tent in the desert, and they suggest a lot of hand sanitizer and gloves because there's a lot of dust. But you have to sign consent forms, and then you go in, and you have moorsomes. That's what they call it.
Moorsomes.
But you can't anymore because it blew away.
Yes, it did. I was going to say this was all amongst the the big storm that blew everything away, and the death and mayhem.
I mean, it almost sounds like Star Wars or something. That you have this tent blowing down the desert and
with people in it,
and then the Ewoks come in and think, "Oh, this would. Oh no, I don't want this material."
Yeah, a lot of people having more. I mean, you gotta sign a waiver.
Yep.
They're saying, "Is this Tatooine?"
Yeah, exactly. So no more. No more.
Well, until next year.
Until next year. If you don't go to Nantucket, you can go there.
Right.
All right, well, that is all for this edition of The Culture Show. You can tune in Monday for writer Ben Shattuck on turning his short story, The History of Sound, into a feature-length film. And science writer David Barron also joins us to talk about his new book, which looks at how Martian mania swept through America's Gilded Age, largely thanks to a Boston Brahmin. Who's related to public media. We'll get into that with him on Monday. He stoked the craze. Edgar, what's happening on the Curiosity Desk?
Well, we got all kinds of content on our website. News on our YouTube channel. We've got a new short about public beaches. Revere. Revere was, bills itself as the first public beach in America. And we had a little battle with a couple of New England states who said that they have the oldest public beaches, but Revere gets the designation.
It sounds good.
All right.
Well, thank you today to engineer Bill Piacatelli, the BPL technical and logistics crew, Maddie Geyer, Bill Francis, Sandra Lopez-Burke, Juan Jose Cadena, Chris Hanks, Pat Lally, Olivia Corcio, and thanks to the Lennox Hotel, the Newsfeed Cafe. Thank you to everyone who came down to be here with us today. We always love seeing you. Have a great weekend. I'm Jared Bowen. Come on down to South Park and have an art-filled weekend.
And binge.
The Culture Show is made possible in part by a generous contribution from the Fiducia Fund, proud to support this station's arts and culture programming.
Where's Mary? Where is she? Where is she? She's just about to close up the library!
Pianist Emil Gilels and the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, led by Fritz Reiner, with Brahms' Second Piano Concerto.
Support for WCRB comes from you and the Boston Speaker Series, continuing its season at Symphony Hall with 7 evenings, featuring Dr. Anthony Fauci, Ken Burns, Outliers author Malcolm Gladwell, and freed Russian political prisoner Vladimir Kara-Murza. BostonSpeakers.org. Tonight on GBH2. Ken Burns and Lynn Novick go beyond the tales of gangsters, flappers, and speakeasies to reveal a divided nation in the throes of momentous transformation. Watch Prohibition, tonight at 9 on GBH2.
Classical Radio Boston is WCRB-FM 99.5 HD1 Lowell, Boston, WGBH-FM HD2 Boston, WCAI-FM HD2 Woods Hole, WJMF-FM Smithfield, Providence, and at Classical